If I can call the meeting to order, and Councillor Kilner and Councillor McRoberts to move us into in camera, and then we will start the public session at 1 o'clock.
I move that Sarnia City Council move into closed session pursuant to sections 239, 2C and K of the Municipal Act to consider the following matters. Consideration will be given to negotiations between the City of Sarnia and the County of Lambton with respect to a municipal facility. Consideration will be given to an expression of interest to acquire city-owned land.
In favor. Thank you, everyone. We'll reconvene back here at 1 o'clock. I think those motions.
Audio check 1 2. Audio check 1 2.
Andrew, you ready to go? Okay. If I could call the meeting to order and begin with the territory acknowledgement. In the spirit of peace and friendship, we honor the Nishpik of the Three Fires Confederacy, on whose traditional territory we are gathered. The City of Sarnia has resolved to implement the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. I'd ask you to stand if you can for O Canada, then a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Councillor Kilner, can you move the report of the closed meeting?
I move that Sarnia City Council rise and report.
I report to you that we gave direction as a council to staff regarding negotiations between the City of Sarnia and the County of Lambton with respect to a municipal facility. Report to you, council provided direction to staff regarding expression of interest in acquired city lands, and that's my report to you.
I move that Sarnia City Council adopt the report of the closed meeting.
All those in favor? Are there any conflicts of interest? Councillor Burrow?
Yes, Your Worship. With regard to agenda item G as in George, it talks about the collection of ICI. We voted last time not to do it, but this time around they say that we can do it with a new program if it's reinstated, and I am accounting for some folks who would be benefited by that.
Thank you for that. I see no others. Okay. We have a very lengthy agenda, so I can hope we can move through it with civility and respect. And I'm going to start with the public meeting on the zoning bylaw. Mr. Palmer is going to present. My understanding is this is not a decision-making meeting. It's simply an input meeting. Is that correct, Mr. McDonald?
Through the mayor, that is correct.
Thank you. So with that, Mr. Palmer, if you'd like to present.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be brief, making sure we've got lots of time to hear from the folks who are in attendance. Next slide, please.
Mr. Palmer, for the public, can you describe who you are and what
Yes. I can do that. I'm Ron Palmer. I'm a planner with the Planning Partnership. I've been working with the City of Sarnia for quite some time now, working on a number of projects, including the official plan dated 2022, and this piece of work, the zoning bylaw that implements that plan. I've worked on the Area 2 secondary plan and a couple of other projects as well.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
Just to begin the presentation, this is, we're here presenting the final draft. That implies that there's one more version to go. Importantly, the zoning bylaw is required to conform to the official plan. However, which is a new official plan. It also, though, does reference the existing zoning bylaw, but does a lot of work updating, simplifying, streamlining that document. Again, you will note that in your package, the staff report includes a comprehensive overview of the 30 to 35 submissions that we've received over the last while that provide comments to this document. And we have provided a response, and in some cases, that will facilitate the requirement for some further changes. And the Area 2 secondary plan update in this document is pre-zoned and is incorporated into this document, although the new zoning regulations utilize the H or hold symbol to ensure that appropriate studies are carried out to facilitate development in a timely way. Overall, this draft of the zoning bylaw is a totally new bylaw. It does conform to your official plan, and it is an updated regulatory regime for the consideration of development throughout the city. Next slide. In Ontario, every municipality has a zoning bylaw. They vary, the documents vary between municipalities, although they tend to cover the same overarching topics. The idea is that based on your official plan, we further subdivide the various designations throughout your municipality into zones with specific regulatory elements. That includes permitted uses and development standards. We certainly have included permitted uses, permitted built forms, regulatory elements related to building height, setbacks, parking, among a whole host of other matters that are typically dealt with through the development approval process. We are trying very hard through the official plan and this implementing zoning bylaw to promote economic development, to remove some barriers to development, the development approval process. We are trying to preserve key elements of community character, particularly in the existing residential neighborhoods, and of course, the requirement that we protect the natural heritage system. Overall, all of the elements of this bylaw are intended to provide a framework for the review and approval of development applications. As with all documents under the Planning Act in Ontario, there are opportunities to consider adjustments to these permitted uses and regulations, some through the rezoning process, others through the Committee of Adjustment. We're always willing to have a look at innovative ideas as long as we're still achieving the intent of the policy framework of the official plan. Next slide. We do regulate a lot of things in the zoning bylaw, but there are things that we do not regulate in the zoning bylaw. We don't deal with the internal design of buildings. We don't deal with the design of roads, streetscapes, parks, or public spaces. We don't deal with construction techniques or materials used for a building, and we don't deal with swimming pools. Next slide. In Ontario, as I mentioned, it's a hierarchical system. The municipality is required to do planning under the Planning Act, and the Planning Act sets a broad framework through which you are to consider those documents. One of the key documents that we are required to be consistent with is the provincial planning statement. That has been updated recently in 2024, so it's a brand new up-to-date document. The one under that, the growth plan, didn't apply to Sarnia and has been repealed. However, some of the key concepts within the growth plan have been integrated into the new provincial planning statement. That's the provincial framework that we deal with. Then it turns to your implementing tools. We have the official plan, which, as I said, is brand new, well, 2022. The job of the zoning bylaw is to conform to the official plan. And if you recall, the official plan does introduce some new ideas and concepts for application here in Sarnia. Some are requirements of the province, and some are what was considered through the development of that official plan as ideas and concepts that are in the best interests of the city of Sarnia. As a result, the zoning bylaw is the key implementing regulatory tool, and as it says on the slide, must conform to the official plan. Next slide. The contents of the bylaw are broken down into 8 parts. I'm going to go through some of them in a minute, but there's a user guide which helps the reader understand how to look at the bylaw and extract the information that they might be looking for. There's an administration section which talks about the statutory elements of how it is to be applied and used. Definitions are an important part of the zoning bylaw. You may recall that the official plan did not include definitions. That's because I didn't want to have 2 documents with definitions in them. The zoning bylaw is the most appropriate place for the list of definitions, and they would apply to both the official plan and the zoning bylaw. Part 4 includes general provisions, and those are provisions that apply citywide. Sometimes they're broken down by land use or zoning category. However, they're typically topics that are common among development applications throughout the city. Section 5 are the zone provisions. That's where we establish zones, create lists of permitted uses, and identify a host of regulatory elements for building height, setbacks, lot coverage, and so on. There is a section that talks about how the hold provision is to be used, and as I mentioned, we are using that in the Area 2 secondary plan. However, it's here and usable by the city in any other appropriate application as necessary throughout the city. Section 7 is the carried over exceptions from the old zoning bylaw. The team has gone through all of the exceptions, removed ones that have already been built or are no longer relevant or are no longer useful, and retained all those exceptions that need to stay in place to facilitate development based on the approvals that those exceptions permitted. And then the last part are the maps, and that identifies the entire city and provides zoning categories on every piece of property within the jurisdiction of the city of Sarnia. Next slide. Just to give you an idea, this is what the definitions section looks like. It goes through a lot of words and phrases that are utilized in both your official plan and in this bylaw. In some cases, there are graphics to help explain the intent of the concept. There are quite a few definitions. Some of them are quite long, but certainly it is a useful and important part of the bylaw in order to understand specifically what we're talking about. Next slide. General provisions, as I said, these are to be applied citywide. This particular page identifies part of the parking provisions. That's something that is included only in the general provisions, but it does talk about various uses and what types of parking standards are required. Next slide. In the chapter 5, section 5, the key, this is where the zones are created and where the regulatory components of the bylaw are fully articulated. You can see that there are more zones than there are designations in the official plan, and that's a very typical approach where more detail is required for any host of reasons to facilitate change, to manage change, to ensure existing communities' character can be preserved. Next slide. For each zone, we identify a list of permitted uses. This is the residential component of the plan. There are four zones. The last two, SR and PR, are carried forward from your existing zoning bylaw because they specifically deal with specific development projects that were created under those zones. We have reduced the number of residential zones down to 2, and they permit different house forms within each. Both do permit permissions for additional residential units and home-based businesses. Next slide. Again, looking at the elements of the zone, this is the regulatory part of the bylaw. On the left-hand side in the blue boxes, those are the things that we are regulating. And there are a host of things that are relatively typical for all zoning bylaws. And then for each zone, we articulate the numeric requirements, the regulatory components of all the things that we're trying to regulate within the bylaw. So for every zone that is created, we have a list of permitted uses, and then we have the regulatory elements in terms of what we're trying to regulate and what the parameters for that regulation are. Next slide. Again, as I mentioned, we do include a short section on the use of the hold provision. This facilitates council's ongoing use of that tool that is provided under the Planning Act. It does apply today to the Area 2 secondary plan, but as I said, it can be utilized in the future anytime council decides they wish to grant an approval with a hold. Next slide. All of the exceptions that are being carried forward are identified on a map and are articulated as to what the exception is. Sometimes it's an exception to use, sometimes it's an exception to regulations, sometimes it's both. There are quite a number, not as many as are in your existing bylaw. I believe your existing bylaw had several hundred exceptions, which is typical for a bylaw as it evolves over time. We've dramatically reduced that based on a thorough analysis. Next slide. So for the mapping, what we've done is Sarnia is quite large, so it's a series of maps. We have a key map, and the idea is that you look at the key map and you find out where your property is, and then you go to that enlarged map, and it includes the bylaw. If you want to go to the next slide, it shows it a little easier. So that's where this particular one is. This one, which is relatively typical of Sarnia, where we have mixed-use corridors and residential areas, you can see where it is on the key map, and then you can find your property on the larger scale map. Next slide. You can look at individual sites. Sometimes individual sites have specific zoning. The key is to look at the color and go to the legend, find out what you're designated or zoned, and then go look at the regulatory regime that goes along with that. Next slide. So our next steps for the consideration of council is pretty straightforward. There is a staff report, and the comments matrix is included with that. Within that comments matrix, we've articulated the intent of the comment and a response to that comment. Sometimes we agree and we are proposing that the final draft bylaw be adjusted to respond to that comment. Sometimes we do not, and we provide a rationale for our decision not to respond in the bylaw to that comment. So there is work to do based on what is included in the comment matrix. That's a very important piece. I would say at least a third to a half have a response that would require an adjustment to the draft bylaw. But it's also important that some of these comments actually also require an amendment to the official plan, which would have to be done at the same time. That is a pretty typical back and forth that happens. You do an official plan first, then you do the details of the bylaw, and sometimes you need to go back and make some adjustments to the official plan to ensure that everything works together. In this case, we have some ongoing work from the county and from the Conservation Authority, and those two agencies may trigger amendments to this bylaw or amendments to the official plan, or both. As I said, the county has been working on updating their own official plan. The Sarnia official plan is required to conform to the county's official plan, and as I said, there may be things in the new county official plan that the city is required to respond to that may facilitate an official plan amendment. It may also require adjustments to the final zoning bylaw. Once we've had a chance to go through comments, make the changes that we're considering, it would come back to council at another meeting for the approval of the zoning bylaw. You are the approval authority for your zoning bylaw. With that, that's the end of my presentation. So I'm happy to hear any preliminary questions or move right into the public meeting.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Palmer, for your presentation. I think one of my first next steps is to go to my optometrist so I can see the report. I just want to lead off with one question. The biggest concern I've had, and many people over the last few weeks, is taking away people's property rights through this official plan process. Can you address that concern? I know the planning staff have met with a number of homeowners, particularly along Lakeshore Road, that this will not remove people's property rights.
Typically, that is the correct answer. The issue that we've heard the most is when the new natural heritage system was implemented through the official plan, which was fundamentally based on the historic natural heritage system. It comes onto people's property, and they believe that that has something to do with taking away property rights. Very specifically in the official plan, existing uses are allowed to remain. Expansions and alterations are permitted. In that regard, it doesn't take away any of the existing rights based on existing or adjusted development. What it does do is tell everyone that the site has been identified as within the natural heritage system, and that has an impact on future development. That's not the same as development right, because there is no right to a future approval. The official plan, again, sets out a framework through which that designation in the official plan can be challenged through a development application process and the preparation of environmental impact study. So the identification of the natural heritage system is based on the information that we had. It was reviewed by the Conservation Authority, and it's the best information available to include in your official plan. And fundamentally, it's the same as it has been for quite some time.
But council can override any concerns we have out there. I've also heard from the farming community with the same concerns about future expansion.
Farming is given in the provincial planning statement. Farming is a permitted use in the natural heritage system.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Dennis and Councillor Gillis with questions, Councillor Vandenberg, and then I have a lengthy list of speakers after that. So please go ahead, Councillor Dennis, then Councillor Gillis, Councillor Vandenberg.
Thank you, Mayor Bradley. First of all, I have to say that when a city that should be building 75 to 100 builds a year, that only build 25 homes in a year, this year, the solution should be very clearly not more red tape and more complex restrictions. As such, I have serious concerns about this bylaw. I have two questions from my serious concerns about the so-called final zoning bylaw. Question one, given our housing output has almost nearly collapsed, how does adding more zoning layers and complexity fix this problem? Is there any evidence this bylaw will produce more new homes rather than more delay? Question two, my second question is around an email I received from a resident whose family's farm on Michigan Line was very quietly captured by the new zoning restrictions, which they learned about as a surprise. As such, were you aware that we are tying the hands of private property owners, and how many are there out there like this? And further, in this specific case, how does a new area-specific total ban on building help us when we are already suffering a new housing collapse? This is absolutely backwards. It's a case where we've become obsessed with rules and not outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. And through you, Mr. Mayor, the first thing I'd like to say is that this bylaw is far less complex, far more permissive than your current bylaw. So your current bylaw is still in place, and it includes many, many more regulatory elements than this bylaw. The delivery of housing is a complicated, multifaceted issue. And I can tell you, working across the province, that the housing market is in a very significant slump across the province. And it may partly have to do with regulatory red tape, but it also has a great deal to do with mortgage rates, taxation, cost, and a lack of labor supply to build it. So there are a host of issues. I don't believe that this bylaw, in fact, complicates planning in Sarnia. I believe it streamlines it and simplifies it. In terms of the second question, again, it's part of the natural heritage system. If it's an agricultural use, that is permitted in the natural heritage system. That's permitted in the official plan, in this bylaw, and in provincial policy. The only issue with those designations, which are based on information that we were given, either from your former official plan or the Conservation Authority, it's your responsibility to identify them, regulate them, and zone them. But again, the official plan does set out a process through which those environmental lines can be challenged and changed based on scientific evidence. But that's really only necessary where there is an actual development proposal. So there's a process. The municipality doesn't really have a choice in the matter of identifying and regulating the natural heritage system. It's a fundamental requirement of provincial policy.
Thank you.
Councillor Gillis, Councillor Vandenberg, then I'll go to the public.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I want to reiterate to you, Mr. Palmer, what the mayor said with regard to the readability of this project. Like it's impossible to read. And when we like to get down into the minutiae, particularly when I'm looking at a legend on a map and I can't read the legend, there's a problem. So this particular, and I'm going to make a point of it because I'll be studying this again over the holidays, and I want to be able to really comprehend what I'm reading, and I can't read it, not with my glasses, not up on the screen. So you've translated this in your slide form, but you have to reformat it in order for us to make this readable. It may add some pages, yes indeed, but I'd rather make an informed decision on what I can read rather than what I can guess to read. That's my first observation, and please take note. My second one, it jumped out at me, was the fact that you were saying the residential uses have been reduced to 2. What are they currently, and what are we looking at with, I don't know if we grandfather or what we do to maintain the stability of the neighborhoods which we already have?
2 parts. I'm not sure what you're looking at, but the actual zoning bylaw is intended to be printed at 11 by 17. And that version.
I don't know if you can see this, but that's what we're reading from. So I would rather have your copy.
Yeah.
I can't see what you're holding up, but absolutely, this would not be readable.
It's letter size. It's letter size.
That's not the right size.
We-
It's
The
intended.
clerk tells me that they can recirculate that to you with,
And I'd appreciate that because it is readable at 11 by 17. Because, I wear glasses too, and I couldn't read it without my glasses. And letter size is too small. The second part of your question about the residential zone, it's not the uses that are changed, it's the zones that are changed. I've reduced them down to 2. Fundamentally, R1 permits single semis, duplexes. R2 is townhouses and low-rise apartments. All the higher density forms of housing are permitted in the mixed-use zones and in the downtown. The idea is that ground-related housing, such as single semis, duplexes, are compatible with one another, and the regulatory regime is intended to carry forward some typical requirements for lot area, lot frontage, and so on, so that they aren't a tremendous jolt within the existing communities. So we think we've hit a balance between trying to be less restrictive in where various house forms go, while at the same time protecting the character of your low-rise residential communities that are predominant in Sarnia. It's also important to note that additional residential units are permitted pretty much everywhere related to single semis and townhouses. So it kind of takes away the definitional difference between a triplex or a duplex or a semi-detached unit, because they're fundamentally permitted. So we are trying to balance those 2 elements through the zoning bylaw. And we think we've hit a pretty good balance. At the end of the day, things will change. Things will change as of right through the additional residential units permissions, which are required by the province. But we're trying to manage scale and jarring differences, and that's what the regulatory elements are for.
So just as a follow-up, if I heard you correctly, if you have a 3-rise in a community that is the standard in the community in a mixed residential area, you have not decided to change that, but to work with it.
Well, you've said many things there. What's a 3-rise? A 3-story?
You said it. That was your phrase. So I presumed it was a 3-story.
3 stories are permitted
Are they
everywhere.
protected, is what I'm asking.
The R1 zone is 3 stories.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vandenberg, then we'll go to the speakers.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, Councillor Dennis asked you a question in regards to people having farms and having the St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority making changes. We just received a letter on December the 12th from Zelenka Reaume regarding some property at Ube Drive here in the city of Sarnia, and then there was a land use change that's subject to that. So my first question is, Mr. Palmer, are you working in concert with the St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority and getting this information? Because they are doing draft studies and stuff like this, and they're now being told that they can't do certain things, and things have changed. And then my other question is, on map number 1, about 4 or 5 years ago, this council approved 500 acres for development lands for subdivision at the corner of Waterworks and Lakeshore Road in Brights Grove. I see on the map that it's green and brown. There was an official bylaw that was approved to represent that. Why is that now changed on this plan here?
The council direction on that particular one near Brights Grove, Mr. Mayor, was not approved by the county. And we can't anticipate development opportunity on those lands until the issues related to flooding and natural heritage have been resolved and the settlement area boundary has been expanded to include those lands. Where our hands are tied by the decision by the county to leave them as rural in the official plan. The first part, I think I'd like Eric to jump in on that one. You certainly read the letter from Zelenka Reaume. Yes, the mapping changed, but that could have been just mapping catching up with the official plan mapping. I'm not sure. Eric, can you weigh in on that one?
Certainly. So through the mayor, yes, we have been working with the Conservation Authority. The green color on those maps is comprised of both natural heritage and natural hazards. So we have incorporated the Conservation Authority's limits through the information that they provided to us into those maps. They recently completed a internal review based on the best information that they had available to themselves. They have an annual requirement to review those limits, but the maps are based on information provided to us by the Conservation Authority.
Thank you. Can I now move to the speakers? I've got Mr. Lou Longo, followed by Bev McDougall. Mr. Longo, and the podium's up here for everyone. And for anyone that was here for the Central United discussion, that has been postponed till January. Please had a request today to do so, and we have done so.
Thank you.
Mr. Longo, would you like to go ahead?
Thank you, Mayor Bradley and City Council. Before I commence, I just want to follow up on the comment a bit about the formatting. If you go to map number 3, the formatting, it's 90% Lake Huron and 1/10 actual showing property. Like, I don't know how anybody's supposed to read that. Like, it's absolutely, I think, needs some work. And then if you go to my property, personal property on map 6, if you turn to map 6, the portion of properties that are on actual Lakeshore Road that on Lake Huron are so small that you need a magnifying glass. Even at 11 by 16, you still cannot read it properly. And then the area that's outlined in yellow, which is suburban residential, is so small. The rest of it's natural heritage. You've got 2-acre lots that you cannot build anything on. Even though Ron Palmer says, oh no, you still have all your rights. But the first line says you cannot build anything on anything that's in green. So where are our property rights? I don't understand what he's saying about our property rights are retained. If I want to build a garage, I can't build a garage. It says no structures are permitted. So how do we answer that?
Lou, let's, do you mind if we just have him respond? That way we can do it right now.
Sure.
Mr. Palmer? Did you hear the question?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, what I said was existing development is permitted. Adjustments, enlargements, improvements to existing property is permitted. However, if you're applying for development in excess of what you already have, then you have to go through the environmental impact study process to determine if the lands are subject to flooding or are part of the natural heritage system. Again, future property rights are not a given. However, we're trying to find a way that existing development on properties affected can continue for as long as they wish to continue.
Well, I have a 2-acre site. My property is 120 by 900 feet long. I want to build a 2,000 square foot detached garage. Can I build it?
Well, again, I'd have to see specifically what you're doing on your site and what the extent of the natural heritage is. There are elements for accessory buildings, some of which we still have to confirm with the Conservation Authority.
I am not on the lakeside. The garage is going to be on the Lakeshore Road side. Your answers are so convoluted that the average citizen cannot understand how to read this. I'm sorry, but that's the fact. I've talked to many of my neighbors, and everybody's in the same boat. All of a sudden, we have this great big green area that's a natural environment that you cannot build anything on. Lakeshore Road, Blackwell Road, Telford Road. All these farmers, all these residential people who are paying $20,000, $30,000 in property taxes per year, and you can't do anything. That's number one. Anyway, that's not why I'm here, but now that was brought up by somebody else, I thought I'd bring that up. I would hope that some changes get made to that, because the way it sits now, there's a lot of disgruntled property owners with this natural environment classification.
And Mr. Longo, that's what this is about today,
Yeah.
right?
So so I'm hoping that council reacts with it and talks to the planning department, because it's a problem. It really is. So the real reason I'm here today is twofold. We have some property at 1300 Wellington Road, which is right next to Clearwater Arena. About 1 acre site. In the old official plan, it was identified as mixed-use commercial and allowed for a number of commercial uses, restaurants, retail, that kind of stuff. And there's no cap on the development size. In the new official plan, this property got redesignated as environmental protection. Again, same classification. We're talking about Lakeshore Road / parkland. So now I had a 1 acre commercial site that got redesignated environmental protection. When I noticed it in the first draft of the bylaw, I contacted Eric Hyatt, who's been very good to deal with, by the way, and spoke to him, and he agreed that it was a misrepresentation and he was going to change it to the neighborhood commercial zone, which it was. So now I have a neighborhood commercial zone on the property, but I'm reading through the definition, and now I got a cap. I got a cap on the amount of building I can build. It says 5,500 meters square. I didn't have that before. But now I got a cap telling me how much I can build on that property. And it says I need to go for an official plan amendment, because now the commercial zone doesn't adhere to the OP. I'm glad to hear that Mr. Palmer says that the city is going to initiate an official plan amendment that's required. I just want to make sure that the property owners are not going to get stuck doing all these official plan amendments, because it's happened in the past. You get missed, and all of a sudden you go to develop something and you need an OP amendment. So I would like for this council, for this planning, or for this, at this meeting, to confirm that my property at 1300 Wellington Street will not have a cap on development size, and the city will initiate the OP as required as soon as possible.
Hyatt, can you speak to that?
Yeah, through the mayor. So certainly, as Mr. Palmer mentioned initially, we will be doing an official plan amendment to implement this zoning bylaw to clean up some of those technical challenges. Land use designation changes such as this would be captured in that proposal.
At the city's cost.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you very much. The other concern I've got is Confederation Street and the new prestige employment designation. So if you drive down London Road, Exmouth Street, Lambton Mall Road right now, there are very, very few vacant lots left to develop commercial property. I've been developing commercial for about 45 years in Sarnia now, so I'm very aware of the commercial parts of the city. Confederation Street is the new London Road. If you drive down Confederation between East and Moreland, specifically between Indian and Murphy, you'll see there's a lot of new developments happening there. We just did a new Dollarama. We're doing a new Starbucks. We're doing a new Pure and Simple. There's a new Wendy's going up, and there's several others coming down the pipe. So the new prestige designation has very limited permitted uses. The prior designation was light industrial, which had 59 different categories of permitted uses. 59. This new prestige employment has 5 uses and 5 accessory uses. So there's no more financial institutions, there's no more special housing, there's no more animal shelters, there's no more payday loans, there's no more veterinarian offices, there's no more recreational facilities, and there's no more retail. Like, retail is the key component of the urban fabric of any city. We need to provide areas where retail can locate and expand in order to satisfy the needs of the growing population. Like, to take away retail completely from Confederation Street, from East Street, all the way to Moreland, is ludicrous.
Mr. Palmer, can you respond to why?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. We grappled with the future of Confederation Boulevard through this Area 2 secondary plan process and through the zoning bylaw, because a lot of it happened at the same time. The province, in the new provincial planning statement, does not allow any retail in an employment designation, and that is what is reflected in the zoning bylaw and in the official plan. The conundrum we have here is we're immediately abutting a heavier industrial designation and zone, and the idea of the prestige is that it's a buffer between that heavy industrial and the mixed use and residential on the opposite side of Confederation Boulevard. However, fundamentally, the provincial policy planning statement tells us we cannot introduce retail commercial uses in an employment zone. That would include prestige.
So maybe we got to change the prestige employment zone to something else. Like, this cannot, like, just think about it. You're going to go drive down Confederation Street, the second busiest street in Sarnia, over 19,000 cars a day drive down Confederation. London Road is full, Exmouth is full, Lambton Road is full, Quinn Drive is full. Where are we going to put the retail people?
I asked,
If we're going to try to move this city forward, where are we going to put the retail component that wants to locate in Sarnia? Explain. Do I have an answer for that, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the city in the official plan and implemented through this bylaw includes a whole host of mixed-use areas, including the downtown, that are expected to accommodate retail, commercial uses, service.
Big box people do not want to go downtown. Downtown is downtown. We're trying to grow the city.
can I bring it back to you, Mr. Palmer? Is it our call as a council if we want to remove that employment area from this plan?
It may be, Mr. Mayor. There's some complications with that based on adjacent landowners. It may be something that you wish to pursue further.
Okay, well, thank you for that, and that's been flagged. So
Yeah,
we will,
I'm not a planner. I don't understand all this stuff, but I just know what the city needs to grow to move forward. And I, as a developer, who I got millions of dollars invested in this city, I know where tenants want to locate, and I know where they want to go, and what the services they need. I just paid $35,000 to put lights up at Vanier and Confed. My portion toward the county of Lambton and the city of Sarnia to put up lights at that intersection. So I understand development costs. I understand. You drive down Confederation Street now, it's like a whole new generation of I get comments every day. Confed is beautiful. Now we're trying to stifle development on Confed by taking out retail. We're going the wrong direction, guys. Come on. Like, I don't know who has to do this, but it shouldn't be me. It should be the council that says, hey, no, this is wrong.
Mr. Longo, with all respect, that's
Thank-
what this meeting is about.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Mike.
And you know, and
Thank-
so this is very helpful to us, and we can flag that for the greater discussion we need to have when we get this back, next year.
Thank you. I'm just saying we have to make development easier so that when we bring new business to Sarnia, it's ready to go. You guys got to give us the tools in our toolbox to help us. And we're not getting that here today from this report. This report is, in a lot of ways, is good, but in a lot of ways, it's not very good at all.
I've got Councillor Dennis, Councillor White. I'd prefer to let Mr. Longo finish, and then we'll go.
I have a question for Mr. Longo, actually.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, Lou. I agree with you 150%. You're preaching to the choir with me. And I'm just I'm just on cloud nine when I drive down Confederation to see all the development take place. I'm old school. Like I was raised. I remember going into Duff's Donuts when I was a kid and buying my donuts off you when you were a younger man. Do you see though eventually, like when Confed is taken up, do you see maybe London Line being the next like out by John's restaurant? If some of those hotels were to be knocked down, do you see eventually that being the next place where big box stores or retailers will head out that way? There's some vacant land out there, and there's some momentum out that way. It seems like I've seen some new development take out that place. What's your thoughts on that?
Yes, London Line would be the natural next development section of the city for sure, but it's just not there yet. People still, you look at the traffic patterns. You got 19,000 cars a day on Confed. Yeah. You got 22,000 cars a day on London Road. London Line, you're talking 8,000 cars.
Yeah,
so
I understand.
It's going that direction. But for the next 10 years, I would say, there's still lots of land on Confed that has to be filled up, and to put these restrictions on it is we're just going in the wrong direction.
I agree with you 100%. 100%. I agree with you.
Councillor White, and then I want to keep this moving. We have a very heavy number of delegations today. So Councillor White, and then we'll, Mr. Lou, I'll let you wrap up what you have to say.
Thank you, Mayor Bradley. Thank you, Mr. Longo, and thanks for helping to highlight the concerns on Confed, and I would agree as well. And I certainly see that we're looking at a couple of strips of color when we see this map here, and it does raise the question in terms of the buffer and how much is required. So from your perspective, if prestige employment, the lighter purple, is maintained to a slight degree as an opportunity to create a compromise here, and that's just hypothetical because I respect what you're saying. I agree with you. How far into that prestige employment zone would make it more tenable for what you're seeing there? Is that a block in to, I don't know, let's say, Missioner, basically everything fronting Confed? Would that be roughly reasonable?
Yes, everything fronting on Confed should allow for retail use. Like,
Yeah.
Like most sites on Confed are about between 250 and 300 feet deep.
Okay.
Okay, so if you do the first 300 feet on the south side of Confed from East Street all the way to Moulin Road, that would work for sure. There's retail. I think apparently retail is permitted across the street. If I'm not wrong, on the north side of Confed, you can have retail. On the south side of Confed, no retail. Again, I don't follow that.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's a helpful answer. Yeah. Thank you.
Like my office is marketing Sarnia to the rest of the province every day. We're a commercial real estate office. We have out of town people trying to bring out of town people here all the time, and we just need the tools, right? We'll bring the people, we'll bring the businesses. We just need the tools and ready to go, so we can do that. But every time we come, we need a rezoning. You got to do this. You got to do that, and it's 4 to 6 months. And the guys say, no, we want to come now. We don't want to come 6 to 8 months. We don't want the uncertainty. We don't want to know if there's going to be an objection. We want to know, is it zoned? Yes, let's go. This is not rocket science, guys, but now's your chance. Now is the chance for the city to prepare this for the next 10 years so that we can move the city forward. I'm passionate about the city. I've been here my whole life. So, anyway. What else am I going to say? Especially with the current economic environment, and we all need to do whatever we can to promote and grow the city. And I think that's all I got to say for right now. Just one other thing. My property at 191 Water Street, I think it's designated wrong in your matrix. It talks about a garage on that property, and that property is totally vacant land. So I think there must be a mistake with the adjoining neighbor or something. If you want to mark that one down, Eric, 191 Water Street.
Thank you, Mr. Longo. And Mr. Hyatt, can staff bring back a report in the new year on this issue of Confederation?
Certainly, yep.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Valid. Thank you. Calling Bev McDougall, then Robert Brown. Come forward on the official plan.
Mayor Bradley and members of Sarnia City Council, thank you for the opportunity of today's statutory meeting to provide input to draft 3 of Sarnia's new zoning bylaw. Our household has lived for 46 years at the corner of Mitton and Mariah Street in a residential 1 zone, north of Mitton Village, north and east of downtown Sarnia. As a former 15-year member of Sarnia City and Lambton County Councils until 2018, I am familiar with the intent and purpose of official plans and zoning bylaws that drive to shape a vibrant, livable community in Sarnia and Lambton County. Thanks for your presentation today, Mr. Palmer. I was happy to hear you speaking about scale and character of development in our community. Today I will be speaking about 2 matters of concern to our household, starting with updated zone provisions of the MU2 Mixed Use Corridor 2 zone, and specifically the MU2-18 exception, with respect to the former Sarnia General Hospital lands, including 327 George, 220 Mitton Street North, and 205 Mackenzie Street North. In 2018, and some of you will remember that time frame, an exhaustive planning process went back and forth between G5, the city, public meetings, consultation, and it resulted in a zoning bylaw amendment number 5 of 2018, 85 of 2002, that rezoned the former Sarnia General Lands General Commercial 1-11 with permitted uses, permitted use restrictions, and site zone provisions that have mostly been carried over from that planning process into the draft 3 of MU2-18 exception. Save and accept the maximum height restriction of GC 1-11 at 10 meters that in the new plan for MU2 zoning generally has been increased to 22 meters. I am requesting that staff, that you, sir, and that council, I am requesting that the former height restriction of 10 meters or 3 stories of the former GC 1-11 be added into the site zone regulations for the new MU2-18 to protect this scale and character of the mature lower density residential areas that surround this entire development area. In order to balance the needs of those already invested in lower density neighborhoods with those interested in bringing in higher density development to this area. Through guiding provisions of GC 111 zoning, redevelopment has already occurred on the much larger North Block. Undeveloped land remaining on the much smaller South Block, which contains a mix of 1 and 2 story buildings, surrounded by 1 and 2 story buildings all around that entire area, that does not have the north to south depth to accommodate 6-story structures with the required parking, outdoor amenity areas, and setbacks needed to support higher density development in the MU2-18 mixed corridor 2 zone without negative impact to the adjacent lower density neighborhood directly south along Bright Street. Much thought went into restricting maximum height of development in this zone, and for good purpose, so that higher density development would be able to coexist rather than detract from scale and character of the stable lower density residential neighborhoods and mature streetscapes surrounding that area. Beyond this other issue, our household wishes to provide comment on a specific definition within the new zoning bylaw describing additional needs housing, meaning any housing including dedicated facilities in whole or in part that is used by people who have specific needs beyond economic needs, including support functions for daily living. Within this definition, we see no description for supportive housing that needs and warrants its own specific definition for the broad range of hundreds of supportive housing dwellings described to be needed by Lambton County in the city of Sarnia. To address where they should be located and what level of appropriate outdoor amenity areas away from the public right-of-way and adjacent land uses need to be provided to support people with specific needs around mental health, active addiction, or other conditions, along with limits of the number of people to be accommodated. Because there are different levels of supportive housing that have been talked about in Sarnia for the last 2 years. They're frequently misunderstood in all conversations in other areas of the city. People continue to come to me with questions and concerns about it, wherever these things are going to end up. I am seeing this being addressed by specific definition and limiting provisions around the same in forward-thinking municipalities across Canada. And coupled with our household's lived experience for 18 years, living directly adjacent to and dealing with outcomes sadly connected to supportive housing for people struggling with active addiction, complex mental health issues, or coming out of incarceration, we believe this needs to be addressed by definition, more specifically, even with subsections in Sarnia's new zoning bylaw. If you did that, every time a new proposal came, you'd be able to refer to specific intensity, the exact type of housing, and everyone can understand what's going on. It's constantly talked about in vague terms, but in reality, it gets very specific. And if people don't understand it, of course, they're going to be upset about it. And I do believe it will be to the advantage of this council, to the community, to those who want to bring forward these projects. And as a former member of Lambton County Council, as a former warden during 15-16, I know there are people hard at work with some great projects around the community. And they're allowed pretty much in a lot of areas now. But if you had that definition with some subsections, you'd have a lot better chance of winning approval. And once you don't have approval, then the war starts. And it's so unfortunate because all of us, as I said to you probably a year ago, everybody has rights and everybody has to matter. So I do want to thank you all for this opportunity to comment and to deliver these two asks, which I believe will shape better planning on a go-forward basis around important land uses of complete communities within the greater city of Sarnia. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hyatt, with each of these delegations, when these type of issues are raised, the expectation will be there'll be something coming back to us so that we can deal with it as a council so it's not forgotten.
Yeah, and I understand that. Thank you, Mayor Brown.
Thank you. Mr. Robert Brown, then Alison Mahan.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Ms. McDougall has hit on the two main points that I was going to speak to, so I won't belabor them too much anymore because I know council, as you mentioned, you've got a heavy schedule going on. I certainly do not, as a professional planner, envy Mr. Palmer's task or staff's task. I've been through both official plan amendments and zoning bylaws as well. Former municipality of Chatham-Kent amalgamated 21 different municipalities. You can imagine the undertaking that was. I would just echo that my client feels much the same way about the two issues that were raised by the previous speaker. The inclusion of or carrying forward or respecting what was passed by council back in 2018. There was extensive conversations, as it was mentioned, that went on that had the neighbors' input, and to more than double what's permitted in that area, I think would have a detrimental impact in the long term, especially since there was a lot that went into it, and those special provisions are not particularly old. They're less than 10 years old when they were brought into place. So carrying those forward in their entirety, carrying forward the provisions of the GC 111 would certainly, I believe, make long-term sense. Now, certainly understanding that the reason why that height restriction or height increase is being put in there, everything is driven from the province and provincial planning statement. And I'm sure that Council has said it, I've said it, other planning staff has always said it. I, to some extent, am concerned that we continue to rely very heavily on provincial planning statement, knowing that a lot of it is focused in the Greater Toronto area and talks about when you have mass transit, talks about increasing densities, and we're not talking increasing from 3 stories to 6 stories. We're talking increases of way in excess of that. Increasing densities in well-established neighborhoods, council has, and all councils have, the first speaker mentioned tools in the toolbox. There are many tools that the municipality already has through the additional dwelling unit policies that are out there. I did just kind of a little workup here to kind of demonstrate that we keep wanting to put people in apartments. We keep wanting to build up and up and up. But when the additional dwelling unit policies were brought forward, and again, that came from the province, I can admit that I was somewhat skeptical. But when you start looking at numbers and you look at the households that are currently in Sarnia now, there are quite a few. Based on the 2021 census, there's over 33,000 private households. Now, some of those obviously include apartments and condos, but even if you took a percentage of those and 25% of those folks put additional dwelling units in their house, even just a single unit, that would be a dramatic increase in available housing for any municipality, Sarnia or other municipalities, and would have very little impact on the residential characteristics of any given subdivision, and allow for folks that either have aging relatives that need care, or I'll speak on my own experience. I had one adult child move out just this past week. It took quite a while to find some place that was affordable. I have another one that's due to move out. We now have a house that's available and could support an additional resident, or bring my own aging parents closer to home. The other issue too that was raised was about special needs housing. That's been obviously expanded in the new bylaw. Certainly understand the rationale for that, but I would definitely echo that there needs to be something in the zoning bylaw, and perhaps this would also, be something that could be addressed in the official plan. The need to include criteria for those locations. There are certain special needs housing that are out there now that don't raise issues. There are some that do. I'll give you a brief example just in conclusion, and perhaps council's experienced this themselves. One would think that a retirement home, a small-scale retirement home that was brought forward into a residential subdivision, would not really raise a lot of concerns. How much trouble can retirees be? That was not the case. Small community, small retirement home, that was introduced into a neighborhood, and there was just about as much objection as I'm sure Sarnia has had over sort of the ongoing attempts to deal with homelessness. So it's not so much about the use, it's about having criteria that staff can rely on. I think it's important that be incorporated into and looked at in more detail as this bylaw goes forward, especially in the area of special needs housing. Just in conclusion, regardless of the new challenges that municipalities face to provide additional housing, there's one main goal in land use planning that we all have to keep in mind, and that's is to avoid the creation of compatibility issues between land use. And certainly, not having criteria for special needs housing or not respecting past approvals that limited height in a residential neighborhood would certainly raise significant questions about the compatibility that it could create in those neighborhoods.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Brown. You mentioned you were representing clients. Who are those clients, so we have it for the record?
Dr. George Farag. He's owner on George Street.
Thank you very much. Now, Alison Mahan and virtually Caitlin Crowley, please. and then one last speaker on the public meeting on the bylaw.
Mayor Bradley, members of City Council. I'm Allison Mahan, and I live at 268 College Avenue North, the corner of College and Mariah. I have lived there since 1971, so 44 years. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the draft zoning bylaw. Over the years, there have been concerns regarding the definitions for various specific forms of housing, whether it's emergency shelter accommodations, group home, or supportive housing. This particular neighborhood where I live seems to be often dealing with these types of definitions. The current draft, which offers various housing definitions, includes additional needs housing, which incorporates long-term care facility, residential care home, group home, hospice, respite care, community homes. There's also emergency housing shelter, live-work unit, lodging house, mixed-use building, mobile house, short-term accommodation, transitional housing unit, facility, a number of definitions, and yet it appears that there's still a need for a clearer definition of supportive housing. I think the neighborhood where I live and the community at large would appreciate a detailed definition of supportive housing. May I suggest that in the zoning bylaw, the definitions of accommodation housing all be in one area with the detailed specifics outlined below. It's still a search to sort of understand the various options and which one applies. I would also like to respectfully request that consideration be given to ensuring that all forms of housing, whether additional needs housing, which is the current definition that seems to encompass many, emergency housing, transitional housing, and hopefully a clearer definition of supported housing, be equally applied, recommended, and implemented for all areas within the zones, not a few isolated areas / neighborhoods only. Our neighborhood, in particular, is in a very delicate balance. I would hope the zoning bylaw and official plan are also in place to ensure the health and stability of the various neighborhoods and the people who live there. Balance in all areas of the city needs to be protected.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mahan. Caitlin Crowley online, and then the last speaker on this issue is Doug Gray. I will ask, is there anyone else that wished to speak in the meeting on this issue, the bylaw? I'm not seeing that. Okay, well, thank you. Crowley and then Mr. Gray. Is Mr. Gray here? Okay, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Caitlin Crowley, Senior Planner with BizLink Reaume, located in London. I am the planning consultant for Orange Rock Developments and Ube Developments Limited Partnership with regards to the review of the draft City of Sarnia zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. So Ube Developments owns the property at 21 Ube Drive in the city, which is now shown on the screen outlined in yellow. So the property is located to the north of the 402 highway and east of Blackwell Side Road and south of the airport. The property currently contains a few light industrial uses, including a large building and a storage yard. So this property and these uses are subject to future expansion plans and further development of the property. Next slide. In the city's official plan, Schedule 1, the property is currently designated employment area, existing employment area, and a portion of the northerly property limits is within the Greenlands system designation. Next slide. On Schedule 2 of the official plan, the property is designated prestige employment, and a portion of the northerly limit is also designated environmental protection. So the intent of the employment area and prestige employment designations is to promote the continued development of Sarnia as the employment and trade center for Lambton County, to encourage the diversification and expansion of the city's existing employment base, retain and promote the growth of existing businesses and industry, and provide an adequate supply of suitably located and serviced areas to accommodate the various types of employment lands to meet the projected long-term needs of the community. So this property at 21 Ube Drive is a good candidate for growth of employment uses and is located just south of the airport and north of Highway 402. Next slide. To date, we have been tracking the review of the city zoning bylaw, and as noted in my letter submitted, through drafts 1 and 2, the zoning bylaw maps released to the public, there were no significant changes from the previous zoning bylaw, and no general concerns with the current zoning of the property. However, through the draft 3 release, there has been a change to the natural environment zone boundary, which is shown in green on the figures on the screen, specifically on the subject lands, which are outlined in yellow. So the image on the left is drafts 1 and 2, and then the image on the right is draft 3. So it is understood that the zone boundary has been changed as a result of new mapping released by the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority. However, to my knowledge, studies have not been released to the public by the SCRCA to show why their regulated area has changed, nor have studies necessarily been documented to warrant a need for this change. So by limiting this property specifically, we are limiting the future expansion and development potential of the southwesterly portion of the property. The owner of this property has undergone their own extensive 4-season site-specific environmental impact study of the subject lands to gauge their development potential and expansion capabilities. This EIS did not reveal any significant concerns with the future expansion of employment uses on the property, and the biologists did not observe any species at risk during their site surveys. So the new NEE zone boundary on the property unnecessarily restricts future development of the west and southwest portion of the subject lands, with no studies provided to warrant this restriction. While I understand the city is reviewing their official plan through this zoning review process, the restrictions of this property through draft 3 of the bylaw do not align with the general employment area policies that I noted previously, and do not align with the provincial planning statement, which both want to see the preservation and growth of existing employment areas. Next slide. As such, it is my client's respectful request that City Council direct staff to further review the NE zone boundary changes as they limit lands which are already designated and zoned for employment uses. We also request that City Council direct staff to conduct a review of the information from the SCRCA, which resulted in the change to their regulated area mapping, and provide that information to the public if possible. Limiting an employment use on a property which is already designated and zoned to permit growth does not align with the principles and policies that the city and province already have in place. Section 2.8.2 of the provincial planning statement also states that planning authorities shall plan for, protect, and preserve employment areas for current and future uses, and ensure that the necessary infrastructure is provided to support current and projected needs. So I would welcome the opportunity to discuss these comments further with city staff and the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, and I look forward to further conversations regarding the city's draft zoning bylaw in the near future.
Okay, that's a given. That's what this meeting is about. So the points will be followed up on, and Mr. Hyatt certainly is available for discussion. And I must ask one question. Have you tried to talk to the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority?
So not to date, I personally have not, but I will be discussing that with them after as well.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. Last presentation, Mr. Gray. Thank you very much. And Mr. Palmer, I presume you're acknowledging all these comments and
thank you, Mayor Bradley, city councilors, and staff. My name is Doug Gray. I'm a resident of Sarnia, and I am a homeowner, and I volunteer with the New Sarnia group. You know, I had a supervisor that told me never to present after lunch. So,
well, don't worry. The way this meeting's going, you may be doing it after dinner.
You know, because everyone gets a little dopey, but me myself included. So I'm speaking briefly to you today, primarily as a response to the draft 3 of the comprehensive zoning bylaw issued on the 20th of October this year, and everything I'm going to say today was contained in a letter that was sent out by New Sarnia, I think, on Friday. So it's just a recap. And I'll be presenting without any slides, and I'll be as quick as I can. So as a starting point of background, you know, as a group, as concerned citizens, we've reviewed the City of Sarnia's official plan. We've reviewed the Active Transportation Master Plan. We've reviewed the Economic Development Master Plan. We've reviewed the Climate Change Action Plan and Implementation Strategy. And we've reviewed the Council Strategic Plan. And infill development and increased housing density appear consistently across all those plans. Official plan clearly positions infill and density as a core land use principle. So neither I nor New Sarnia have invented these terms. You've already wholeheartedly endorsed them through your various planning documents. Just as a matter of timeline, we reviewed the first draft of the comprehensive zoning bylaw issued in November of 2023, which is 2 years ago. We attended your public information meeting on the 28th of February of 2024. We sent a detailed letter to council and staff on the 18th of July 2024 as part of our review of draft 1. We presented a delegation to you on the 16th of December. I had to do a double take because that's almost exactly a year ago. And as stated, we subsequently reviewed the draft 3 and submitted a letter just prior to this meeting. So overall, our perspective is, it is our opinion that the aspirational goals of the various official plans are not easily achievable with the current iteration of the bylaws. We also feel that the fallback position of requiring variances for each non-compliance is unworkable and unpractical for implementing local and specific infill projects. In summary, the infill development and increased housing density has permission on paper, but without feasibility in practice. And I'll go over a couple of key concerns. One is that there's been some minor tweaking, I'll admit, for frontage requirements and current standards for duplex, triplex, and fourplexes. But with a 21-meter frontage and a 280 square meter per unit lot areas, there's not very many places in the city you can put those buildings in. I'd be very interested, Eric, to know how much of the city can actually put in the things that zoning structurally limits the city's ability to meet the 45% intensification target, and these practical barriers defeat that intent. Our recommendation is that the frontage minimums reduce the frontage minimums and manage the project through side and rear yard setbacks and height limits while keeping neighborhood compatibility as an essential criteria. Earlier speaker talked about additional residential units, ARUs. The promotion of ARUs provides some intrinsic advantages to missing middle housing. Property owners can add ARUs to provide accommodation as a starter home to their adult children, as a senior residence for their aging parents, or even as a source of additional income, rental income. Whereas the removal of pedestrian access to each ARU is a positive change, something that was changed in this version 3. The current size maximum of 75 square meters, which is roughly 750 square feet, and gross floor area cap of 40%, significantly limits the feasibility of these units, especially in older neighborhoods where the houses and the lot sizes are a little bit smaller. Again, our recommendation is to adopt a more flexible standard that's both code compliant and functional. As a suggestion, replace the 40% ground floor area cap with something more adaptable, perhaps the lesser of 90 square meters or 50% dwelling gross floor area or something like that, something that's a bit more adjustable. A third area of focus was parking, which is always our favorite subject. The official plan promotes compact, walkable, and transit supportive development and aligns intensification and reduced auto dependence along with the active transportation master plan. The current parking minimums are applied uniformly across the zones and do not vary by proximity to downtown, mixed-use, transit areas, trails, or bike areas, and assume universal car ownership. Parking minimums inflate housing costs, they undermine walkability and gentle densification, they lock future development into practices that undermine lot sizes needed for ARUs and infill, and they add significant costs that are embedded in rents, disproportionately affecting senior students and low-income residents that may not have a vehicle. So our recommendation is to review or eliminate parking requirements for duplex, triplex, and fourplex buildings, to reduce or eliminate parking minimums within walking distance of main transit thoroughfares, and to remove mandatory visitor parking requirements for apartment buildings. As an aside, many communities across North America are eliminating parking minimums altogether. Parking requirements are being pushed back onto the developer, who would read the market and incorporate the number of parking spaces as fits their customers. For some communities, current parking rules apply, but all new development would eliminate parking minimums lest people panic that everything's going to change overnight, which it would not. So, in conclusion, what's in it for the city? Well, infill development and increased residential density reduce the cost per household or per capita for services. It generates higher assessment per kilometer of infrastructure, and it lower maintenance and long-term capital replacement cost projections. It provides living space for those who don't fit the single-family dwelling household model, allowing those who would likely leave the region to stay and settle in Sarnia. Young professionals, downsizing, retirees, seniors, students. Provides economic activity outside the standard development model. And with livability comes a more diverse economic base. So the effectiveness of the active transportation master plan is at risk with this draft 3, as a walkable city cannot be achieved under low density land use patterns. Similarly, the city's economic development master plan objectives, particularly downtown commercial revitalization, are jeopardized when residential density is insufficient to support local businesses. Achieving the city's long-term vision, therefore, largely depends on zoning bylaws that are not only policy aligned, but practical and implementable. Where do we go from here? For Sarnia, with a relatively fixed tax base and aging infrastructure, promoting infill and densification activity is not theoretical, but essential. It's our opinion that the current comprehensive zoning bylaw, as currently manifest in draft 3, will not help the city achieve its long-term future goals. Continued sprawl will lead to higher taxes or service reductions, deferred maintenance, infrastructure debt, and intergenerational inequality. The city cannot stabilize taxes or diversify its economy while continually extending infrastructure. We are already seeing that with the debate over the development fees for Area 2. We do not recommend an endorsement of these zoning bylaws that have remained essentially unchanged since the start of this review 2 years ago. We recommend a complete rethink on the form and objectives of zoning bylaws to bring the city of Sarnia into the future. Other communities in Ontario and throughout Canada are doing this. We should do likewise. Thank you, Your Worship, and councillors for attending, and attending city staff for providing the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Let me ask the question to Mr. Palmer and to Mr. Hyatt. Where do we go from here? Going back to your question, where do we go from here on timing? So this council will deal with these issues.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really, it's going to be up to when Eric wants to bring back a revised version of the zoning bylaw to council for approval. My expectation is Q1 of 2026 is achievable and reasonable. And we go forward from there. Anything you'd like to add to that?
No, through the worship, I think that's correct. In addition to EO report with respect to the employment area on the south side of Confederation early in the new year. So I think that would likely come before the zoning bylaw returns, so that if there are any changes, we can incorporate that into that draft.
And the other speakers raised issues too. They will be brought back to us for some.
Yep. So I've noted all of those issues. So they'll either be captured in a matrix that comes in the future or specifically in a report.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Palmer, and thank you everyone else that participated. Council, we have 4 more delegations on other issues. We will hear them and then take a short break and then deal with the regular agenda. Can I call upon Sarah Reaume from Community Futures?
Worship and Council, thank you so much for allowing me to come before you today. I am Sarah Reaume. I'm the CEO of Community Futures Lambton. As some of you might remember it as formerly the Sarnia Lambton Business Development Corporation. We rebranded last year, and we are the agency in this community that has since 1988 delivered the Community Futures program to Sarnia and Lambton County. We are one of 265 plus agencies across Canada who deliver the Community Futures program, and all of that in what the federal government terms as rural communities. Those would be communities under 100,000. So we've been in, next slide please, we've been in Sarnia and Lambton County since 1988. We are a non-profit corporation that is operationally funded by the federal government with a mandate to deliver 3 service streams. The first is repayable loan funding of up to $300,000 for new or existing businesses, and that could be for anything from the purchase of a business, leasehold improvements, the purchase of new equipment, operating funding, that sort of thing. And to this point in time, we've pushed nearly $60 million out into Sarnia and Lambton County to support small business. And we're currently sitting at about $14 million in our investment fund, 7 of which is out in the community and the rest is available to lend. That's our first service stream. The second is to provide free of charge coaching and support services to businesses in Sarnia and Lambton County. And that really is across the whole life cycle of a business, from ideation, I've got a really cool business idea I'd like to talk to someone about, and in terms of whether it has legs, through to business planning, financial literacy, marketing support, and then at the other end of it, succession planning, and I'll come back to that. The third service stream is community economic development, and we do that through grants that we offer for economic development support at the grassroots level throughout our municipalities. We also support through Lambton College and the YMCA youth entrepreneurship initiatives. As well, we have in municipality, in community office hours, and kind of an a la carte offer of business workshops and other support services that folks in municipalities can ask us to come out and deliver there instead of asking them to come to Sarnia. So by way of context, Mayor and Council, that is who Community Futures Lambton is. Next slide, please. But what I did want to talk to you about today is a scalable opportunity that has made itself available and which is coming our way soon, and I'm just so excited to tell you more about that. Our sister office in Aurelia, Simcoe County in Aurelia, in 2020 received funding from the Trillium Foundation to develop what became known as the BizLink program. And they wanted to develop that program as a business transitions program that could provide a confidential and anonymous matchmaking service between businesses who wanted to sell and people who wanted to buy a business. Could I have the next slide, please? What happened with the CF Aurelia crew is they had this good idea, then they got the funding for it and delivered it in Simcoe County through those first 3 years of funding from the Trillium Foundation, and then they have continued to deliver it to this point in time. In the last year, with the prompting of several shy voices, I'm being facetious, shy voices saying there is a huge scalability opportunity here from certainly CF Sarnia Lambton and others across Western Ontario, and there are 20 other CF offices in Western Ontario. We've been encouraging them to look at scaling this program so that all of the other CF offices in Western Ontario could avail themselves of the program that they did a super job of perfecting. The next slide, please. I know y'all had this in your packages, and you can see some of the metrics up at the top there that they were able to achieve, but I think the money shot in those numbers is the one that has the box around it. Within that, just 2020 to 2023, they were able to facilitate 75 successful business transitions in Aurelia and Simcoe County. And in the years since, we understand they're going to come close to 100 by the end of 2025. Next slide, please. To define transitions for you, that might mean that Bob's Hardware is sold and continues operating as Bob's Hardware. It might be that Bob's Hardware is renamed Mike's Hardware and continues operation. Or the transition might mean that there was a mutual agreement that the sale of business assets and the ceasing of business operations was the best thing for that business. But that provides you with a bit of a definition of what transitions mean. Next slide, please. So to translate that 75, and remember that there's been almost another 25 since the end of 2023, but those 75 business transitions that took place in the first 3 years of this program equated to nearly $74 million in money that was retained in the Simcoe County local economy. You can see there what that meant in terms of jobs or FTEs that were preserved or created. And if one subscribes to the notion that a dollar that's retained in a community turns 3 to 5 times before it stops, you can see what the economic impact would be in Simcoe County for them retaining those 75 successful businesses. Next slide, please. What I wanted to also do is to provide you with a little bit of context from what the CFIB, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, is saying about this. Currently, 60% of business owners in Canada are over the age of 50. And of the 1.2 odd million small and medium-sized businesses in Canada, 76% of those owners will exit their businesses within the next 10 years. And only 1 in every 10 of those business owners have a formal business succession plan to ensure a smooth transition. Next slide, please. What I wanted to do is extrapolate the data for Sarnia Lambton to give you a little bit of a sense of what that would mean locally. And if I look at the data available through SLEP, through the Sarnia Lambton Economic Partnership, they talk about the 3,487 businesses that are currently in Sarnia and Lambton County right now. And if you look at that in terms of the likely number that are small businesses, 1 to 99 employees, that's probably just over 97%. So we would be talking about just over 3,400 businesses in Sarnia and Lambton County. If one works on the premise that 76% of those businesses or business owners will exit their business in the next 10 years, that's nearly 2,600 businesses. And again, if we look at that through the lens of those who have a succession plan or who are thinking about that being at 10%, that's about 260 businesses. For us, that number is astonishing. May I have the next slide, please? For the folks that already come to us for succession planning, what tends to happen is people come and say, I want to get rid of my business next June. I've just decided that I'm going to sell, or I'm going to exit my business. And what we're quick to advise is that the runway for a successful exit strategy is not a 6-month runway. It can be 2 or 3 or sometimes more years. And and certainly what we have seen as folks that come to us and the financials that they're preparing to give to a potential business owner are what they would submit to the CRA. And we all know that we're trying to submit financials to the CRA that minimize the tax we pay, not that focus on the amazing success of our business. There are tax implications that either are going to hit a potential business that's going to sell without that forethought, and that could be mitigated if we were thinking about vendor take-back or selling and the purchase of the business being over a period of years. There's so many things that impact on that, and certainly preparation is everything. And when I said to you that these numbers are astonishing to us, they are in so much as when we think about the impact that this can and with the demography that we're talking about will have to our main streets, not only in Sarnia but across Lambton County, it is significant. Could I have the next slide, please? So I'm just so delighted to tell you that scaling up of the BizLink program is nearly complete. CF Aurelia, with the support of Community Futures Western Ontario, has funded this scaling up, and there will be in early 2026 the release of a external-facing website that will allow not only businesses in Sarnia and Lambton County, but in the other 19 CF offices across Western Ontario to either confidentially post their business for sale, a hardware store in Sarnia, or to list their business for sale by name. When they do that, they pop up on our radar, and because that's what we do, it gives us an opportunity to offer them financing if they need it, and to give them the kind of support that will amp up the curb appeal of their business so that when they sell it, there's no money left on the table. On the other side, when someone indicates, either someone from Sarnia and Lambton County or outside of Sarnia, Lambton, indicates an interest, that also pops up on our radar and gives us an opportunity to talk about the wonderful community that we live in, and also ensure that they are indeed a bona fide buyer. We then can, with the permission of both parties, connect the two and step back and allow them to do what they do. So, so pleased today to be able to talk to you about the fact that BizLink will roll out in Sarnia and Lambton County early in the new year. You can see on the screen what comes with BizLink, and certainly I'm before you today with a humble request that where it makes sense and where it is complementary to the city's economic development master plan, we would respectfully request that council direct city staff to support out the rollout of this very important business support service. I certainly, that's the request today, and beyond letting you know that this is coming and asking where it makes sense for there to be support for it. An ancillary reason in coming before you is to ask that wherever it is possible, with mayor and council and with city staff, that we make a concerted effort to raise the conversation and raise awareness about the fact that we need to be talking about business transitions as of significant concern going forward, not only in Sarnia but in Lambton County and the broader community. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Mayor Bradley and council, to speak to you today.
Well, thank you very much, Sarah. And this issue has been an ongoing issue. It's almost like people not wanting to make a will. And even this past week, I had two companies, the same, smaller companies, right? So this is a great initiative. And I'm certain we can pass a motion to support your effort. Councillor Burrow?
Yes, Your Worship. I would move that we ask our staff to work with Community Futures Lambton to work towards implementing this program.
Seconder, Councillor White. All those in favor? That's great, and thank you for your presentation to County Council too. That was helpful. So
Thank you, sir.
Question there,
Sorry, go
sir? Yep. Thank you again for your presentation as well as at the county, and appreciate your time here. And I'll try and keep this very brief, just to give you a chance to answer or to respond. But similarly to the questions I asked you at the county, you know, I frame this, you know, with the brief story in terms of the opportunity we have with young talent, and as you mentioned, that transition period has to be fairly significant, especially considering some of the complexities of different businesses. I ran a moving company, and I had somebody drop his contact book in front of me and said, "I'm selling my business, here you go, it's this much money, I need to know in about a week," right? So I didn't have a whole lot of time to consider that opportunity. Conversely, while I was a younger person in school, in my last week of 3 years of training as a filmmaker, our instructor said, "Well, this is the part of the course where we teach you how to be an independent business." So we had 1 week's training. He said, "This is how you do your taxes. This is how you file everything. This is what it means to apply for grants. Anyways, good luck." Right. So I understand that, you know, there are a lot of talented young folks coming out of various programs, whether it's fabricating, carpentry, home renos, whatever, all across the spectrum, who might not be considering the fact that they have potential to just not work for somebody. And I wonder what capacity your organization is going to have to try and attract younger people, to market to them, to help onboard them to the concept that perhaps they're not going to work for somebody, that their greatest opportunity is to create some kind of a plan with an existing business and to transition into actual ownership. Is that part of what you're going to do? Marketing to college students, marketing to folks that are transitioning from regular employment who are job seeking, and saying, you know what, we have a different path for you if you're interested. Is that part of what you're planning on doing?
Thank you for your question, Councillor White, very much so. Part of the outreach to municipal councils and to county council is to elevate the conversation. We are hiring designated staff. We are creating a long-term plan that includes targeted outreach to young entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs about what that path looks like going forward. We do know that the chances of success in a new business are significantly elevated if one takes on an existing business rather than starting from scratch. It's early days for us. That is part of our intention. And I think more generally, what we should all be talking about in terms of speaking to young entrepreneurs in our community and starting to encourage them to think about existing businesses that are out there and starting to elevate and have those conversations. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis.
Sorry, just quick. Thank you, Mayor Bradley.
I'm sorry, Councillor White still has the floor. Then you, Councillor Dennis.
Sorry,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up. And just on that, even on the term entrepreneurs, I'm wondering if that, and I'm just saying it out loud or just spitballing here, but I know for myself and my skill set, I never would have considered myself an entrepreneur, even though I've kind of run my own stuff since about the year 2000. So is the intention to perhaps reach out to other people who might consider themselves craftspeople, artists, you know, skilled tradespeople or whatever, without necessarily just approaching the concept of entrepreneurs? A lot of people can see businesses as turnkey. The skill or the widgets don't necessarily matter. We just know how this whole thing functions from a top level, right? We pay in, we pay out, we hire, we serve. But from a more direct skill perspective, that one person who has a skill believes they're going to work for somebody, is that part of the marketing? Again, not to call the word entrepreneur like a dirty word or anything like that, obviously, but in my mind, when you say that, it limits me. I might not consider myself that. That's all.
You've heightened my sensitivity around the nomenclature, and we'll keep that in mind going forward. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis, and we'll move on to the other delegations.
Thank you. Hi, Sarah. Excellent presentation. Actually, I read about your organization. It was in one of the publications recently, if I'm not mistaken, and that's really eye-opening when you think about it. Within the next 10 years, well, one thing should be encouraging to you is what really is impressive to me is I'm a big business supporter locally. What's encouraging to me, and I'm sure you've already probably thought this out, is we're getting a lot of new Canadians locating in Sarnia, and a lot of them are entrepreneurs themselves. They're opening new businesses themselves, and they're very, very hard workers, as you probably know, extremely hard workers, and you know, I get invited to their grand openings. I like to promote their businesses on my social media page, and I think, to be honest with you, I think that may be a great source of you know, people that are looking to take over businesses that are going to, you know, when people are going to retire and such, because I see an awful lot of, you know, new Canadians that are coming here to locate. You know, they're entrepreneurs. They have a real entrepreneurial spirit, and they're coming here in many cases to find their Canadian dream and to do the very best they can. That's just something that I've observed, and I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and I really have an awful lot of respect for entrepreneurs and business owners. My dad was too as well, so I look at them in a different way. And just your thoughts on that.
We at Community Futures frequently have new Canadians visit our office asking if we can provide them with information about businesses that are for sale. And I don't think that we're unique, certainly in seeing that kind of trend happening. It underscores the need for having the wherewithal to direct them to local businesses that are available.
Sure.
We see and identify the same thing.
And usually people that are selling their businesses, usually in many cases, there's usually clauses in the sale of the business where the former owner stays on for 6 months or a year to, because you're in many cases, depending on the business, you're buying a lot of goodwill, and the former owner will stay on for 6 months or a year to train, to make sure everything goes, make sure it's a smooth transition. And in many cases, from what I recall, when I was a realtor, when you know, I've sold a few businesses myself, and I that's always been part of the transaction.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate that. We have 3 more delegations. This is all on the same issue, which is the Mitton Street reconstruction, and we'll deal with that report immediately after the speakers. And if I could call upon Joshua Walters to come forward, please. And then Mr. Saz, and then also Tristan Bassett, and then we'll deal with the report and take a short break.
What we're doing with number 2 right now?
Yes, we'll do it right after we hear the 3 submissions, and the recommendation is to option 1.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Just want to start with a quick question. By show of hands, how many of you are familiar with the game of baseball? Oh, okay, good. Phew. My whole thing rests on one metaphor here. I'm here to ask City Council to hit a home run. The pitch that the city needs to hit out of the park is the Mitton Street Sewer Separation Project. This project's going to take an estimated 6 months and will significantly disrupt the businesses in Mitton Village. We've seen across our city how these projects can threaten the well-being of our small businesses, and we can only assume that this is going to be a difficult season for us. It's because of this that I implore you to make it worth it. I understand that this council prides itself on being pro-small business. Well, nothing could be more tragic than these businesses going through such a horrific experience only to have it be not worth it in the end. Being pro-small business means being pro-innovation and leveraging opportunities like this and making the juice worth the squeeze. It also means listening to more than one or two businesses and paying attention to the opinions of a larger collective of businesses who are advocating for a positive vision. That's why I'm standing here now. My name is Josh Walters, and I live and work in Mitton Village. I also own 2 businesses in Mitton Village. It's my life's work to support the revitalization and flourishing of this amazing community. But I'm not here on my own accord. I'm actually standing here on behalf of 25 business owners, property owners, and managers of businesses, representing 17 different businesses. I know the delegation said 22 and 16, but I since nabbed one more. Imagine all 3 rows here filled with the people I'm representing, business owners in this community. So 17 businesses have signed a letter to the planning department to show our support for the innovative design in option 1. And I'm here to emphasize that we want to come out of this project with a new and improved Mitton Street, not just the same old street with a fresh pave of asphalt. The report from engineering and operations claimed that there is a, quote, low tolerance for any reduction in parking, but that simply is not true. Sure, the city's engagement revealed a variety of opinions, which is to be expected. However, sometimes a very small number of loud voices receive more than their fair share of attention. And I'm here to make it abundantly clear that there is in fact a high tolerance for a reduction in on-street parking, especially when this reduction is in the service of features that enhance our business area. We, and by we, I mean 17 businesses, have endorsed option 1 as it was presented precisely because it emphasized features such as traffic calming, sidewalk extension, and flex space, while still maintaining a reasonable number of on-street parking. And most importantly, we endorse the innovative design of a flex street, like Dundas Place in London, Ontario, in which Mitton Street could be used for a variety of purposes, such as outdoor markets, street festivals, concerts, and more. So please hear me, hear us. Swing for the fence on this one. Make it worth it for our businesses. We want you to hit a home run on this project so we can all celebrate together. And I can guarantee you that no investment will get a greater return than investing in Mitton Village. Thank you for your time. If you have any clarifying questions, I welcome them.
Well, thank you. I was over there on Saturday and just enjoyed the number of people that were out at your business.
Yes.
And what is the name of your business?
Love Buzz Coffee and Maud's Variety.
Okay, well, that's exactly, there's a free commercial. So anyhow, leave this with us. We'll deal with this in a few minutes. Thank you.
It looks like
I have a question.
All right, Councillor McRoberts and Councillor Dennis.
I would just like to state that I am not declaring a conflict of interest. My business that I rent in a building is on the other side of the 5 corners, and I do not see that losing a few spots of parking is going to enhance my business in any way. I just like to state that.
That is your decision to make.
Yes.
Councillor Dennis?
Yeah, Josh, I was driving by Mitton Street at 8:30 on Saturday morning, and it was right before that new store that that new store that was in the old Walker's Brothers. It's a kind of a, I don't know what you call it. It's kind of a, it's turned into a success. It's kind of a again, I don't know what to call it. They have kind of a neat little business model where you find things that are at a discount, and if they're there the next day, the price is lowered again, and so on. But anyways, at 8:30, 8:45 in the morning, the people were literally lined out the door. You know the one I'm talking about, I'm sure.
Yes.
There wasn't a parking spot to be found, and the people that have contacted me, and quite honestly, if one, possibly 2 businesses are upset and they feel it's going to affect them, it really doesn't matter if most of the people are in agreement. The people that have affected or that contacted me, and I typically am Sarnia's 911 call when people are upset with something. They contact me because they know that I'll go to bat for them. This one lady runs a hairdressing shop. She's been there for 18 years. And she's quite upset about it, about losing customers and such. When I went in to see her originally, I had to literally park down Kathleen Street because there was no parking spots in that parking lot that's beside the that one pot store. Anyways, like I said, I don't understand. I really don't understand how taking away parking spots. You guys have done a great job rejuvenating Mitton Street. No doubt about that. 5 or 6 years ago, you could shoot a cannonball down that street and nothing was there. You got a new gas station that no one seems to use, but I know at one time you guys were begging to have a gas station in there. And and you finally got one, but no one seems to use it. But anyways, I know things are happening there, but I for the life of me, I don't understand, why you guys would want to take away parking spots. Like, and the people that I've talked to, they've been there for a long time. They may not be, young millennials, but they've been there a long time. And you know what? Their voices matter too.
Well, I appreciate those comments, and I am actually aware of all the letters that you've received and the specific store owners. Not all of them have been there for 18 years, and one of them I observed parks their car on the street all day in front of their store. So if they really valued parking, they might not do that. But again, it's not about just taking something away. It's about getting something better in return. And I also understand that maybe you drove through at a time when Hot Drop Bins had a lineup outside the store, and they're doing a good job of trying to generate some hype around their deals and things like that. But myself and 25 other people representing not just millennials, but multiple generations of people from the area who live there, who work there all the time, 24/7. This is what we're endorsing, and yeah.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I just thought I'd ask you a question.
Thank you.
It's fine.
Councillor McRoberts, then I'm going to move to the other speakers. Councillor White, too.
Thank you through the chair. Thank you, Josh, for your talk. I would just like to point out a few issues that were just spoken to. I'm grateful that the street was, and all the parking spots are taken up, because that's telling us we're doing something right. And I would like to also point out that majority of them were probably in Love Buzz Coffee, and that the parking rarely is even close to being half full. So we have parking, and my store has tons of customers coming in, and they will walk 2 blocks to get in my store. So if we give them something to come and enjoy, and we show the customer service, and they're getting a quality product or service, they're going to come. And I'm not saying get rid of all parking. We are talking about 4 parking spots being, is that not the number? I'm asking anybody. Mr. Jackson, 4 spots is what we're discussing?
Third member council, the one option was 6 spots.
Oh, 6 spots out of how many?
28 on street.
Thank you. And that's just the street parking. That's not the side streets. That's not the businesses that have their own parking in behind, and that's not the parkette. So if the farmer's market can carry how many people go through that on a Wednesday and a Saturday, Mitton Village, I hope we're packed. I hope every spot for a mile is packed, just so they'll come to our businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor White, and then we'll have the next delegation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to speak with us today, Mr. Walters. Appreciate the time and energy you put into serving the community. Mitton Village is benefiting tremendously from a lot of your sweat equity, not just in your prolific economic investments, but all of the energy that you and the other citizens are putting into trying to shape a community there. This parking consideration certainly raises an old illustration, I think, brought about by strong towns, which, for example, uses shopping malls, large shopping centers that have basically 10% of their parking used at any time, but it's overbuilt to accommodate roughly 3 weeks out of the year, essentially coming around Christmas time, which isn't a very effective use of space. The counter to that, as you discussed, is that what you receive in return by reducing parking. And so from your perspective as a business owner, what are you receiving in return should we move forward with this? Additional pedestrian traffic, additional outdoor space? What does that return look like for you and your businesses?
I appreciate that, because I was gonna say I didn't come here to just talk about parking. That's why I said I want you guys to try to hit a home run with this project. I don't want you to reduce it. We don't want you to reduce and water it down. We want you to try to do something innovative that inspires not only our community, but other communities across. So we're talking about creative urban design. We're talking about pedestrian-friendly spaces. We're talking about multi-use flexible spaces. I mean, a parking spot can be a parking spot till 5 p.m., and then it can become a patio from 5 p.m. till 11 p.m. You know, there's just so much more uses that if we were just imaginative and willing to go for it, I think we'll see amazing return on investing in that. So,
thank you very much. Thank you. I have Mr. Alavil Sayez to come forward, please, to speak. Oh, sorry, Ms. It just said M. It did not say anything else, so sorry about that. I have Tristan Bassett, and then we'll deal with the issue and take a break.
Hello, my name's Javi. I'll read from my notes. Hi. My name is Javi Villasayas. I live in Mitton Village. I'm the parent of an 8-year-old boy who walks, bikes, grows up in the street every day, and I've been working in this community as a doula and childbirth educator since 2019. For those who may not be familiar, a doula works inside people's homes, supporting families through pregnancy, birth, and the early years of parenting. I sit with people at some of the most vulnerable moments of their lives. I help them feel safe, informed, and supported as they bring the next generation into the world and learn how to care for them. That work gives me a very close-up view of what families need in order to thrive, not just inside their homes, but in the neighborhoods they return to afterward. I'm here tonight to speak in support of option 1 for the Mitton Street redesign and to encourage council to listen closely to the voices of business owners and community members who are advocating for meaningful change. You've received a letter addressed by Josh from Mitton Village business owners, and I want to echo the spirit of that letter. I was one of the people who signed. I am a business owner of Radiant Community Center, which is a startup project I'll tell you more about in a minute. Option 1, we are not asking for cosmetic upgrades. We are asking for a street that functions as a village, a place designed for people, not just for moving vehicles through as quickly as possible. Option 1 offers the broadest and most future-oriented impact: wider sidewalks, traffic calming through materials and design, race crossings, pedestrian-level lighting, and the flexibility to create pedestrian-only space for community events, and that all support safety, accessibility, and local economic vitality. I want to make this clear. Our letter was misinterpreted. We are not asking to sacrifice a once-in-a-generation redesign in order to preserve a small amount of parking. That is not what the letter was, all right? Change is not always comfortable. Some businesses have operated for a long time, as Mr. Dennis mentioned, for 18 years under a business-as-usual model, and that deserves acknowledgement. But business as usual is also what has limited Mitton Street's ability to function as a true neighborhood main street for the people, not for cars. The voices advocating for option 1, many of them community builders and organizers, are thinking beyond individual storefronts. They are thinking about walkability, safety, visibility, and how people actually experience the street day to day. As a parent, this matters deeply to me. I don't experience Mitton Street primarily as a place to park to go buy something at a discounted store. I experience it as a public space, as the environment my child navigates daily, where design decisions directly affect safety, confidence, and connection. That perspective is reflected clearly in the business owner's letter, in the emphasis on pedestrian access, flexible use of space, thoughtful materials, vibrant color, and a streetscape that reflects the spirit of Mitton Village. Mitton Street isn't an abstract corridor on a map to me. It's a street where I show up for families, where people recognize each other, and where community actually happens. I'll close by sharing where this connects to the future. Over several years of community work, I've been building Radiant Community Center, now on Mitton Street, a startup community project rooted in birth education, reproductive support, parenting support, and care. This month, we began running our first free public classes in that space. We also recently received Creative County funding in collaboration with New Sarnia to create a mural on the side of the building inspired by the lived experiences and stories of people in Sarnia. That mural is being created through a people-informed process, listening to community stories through community engagement sessions, reflecting their real lives and parenting experiences, and translating them into a public art piece for everyone to enjoy. It's a reflection of who lives here and what we value. The Mitton streetscape, that word's hard, redesign, deserves the same approach, a people-centered approach. A redesign informed by how people actually use the street. Parents, children, elders, small business owners, pedestrians, community organizers. Creates a space that feels safe, welcoming, and alive. A flex street, wider sidewalks, calmer traffic, and space for community life are physical expressions of that same people-centered methodology. This design is not just about infrastructure, it's about whose lives and experiences we choose to center in the public realm. Mitton Village is already being revitalized by people taking risks, starting new projects, and investing in community. The streetscape is an opportunity to reflect and support that momentum, to build a street that matches the creativity, care, and connection already happening here. I encourage Council to support option 1 and to listen to the voices advocating for a safer, more human, and more connected Mitton Street.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Questions? And I do live in the neighborhood.
That's my job to ask any questions. Are there any questions? Anyhow, very good presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll call upon the last speaker, who's Tristan from New Sarnia. And then we'll deal with the issue and then we'll take a short break.
Afternoon, Mayor, Council, and staff. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tristan Bassett. I am the Executive Director of New Sarnia Foundation. We work very closely with Josh and Javi and a lot of the other business owners and residents to support the growth and revitalization of Mitton Village. And I'm here to lend support for option 1 for the street design as well. Next slide, please. So Main Street redesigns like this one in front of us matter because they shape how people experience a place. A street can either be something we pass through or somewhere we choose to spend time. When a main street is designed to feel safe, welcoming, and human-scaled, it becomes a shared public space, one that supports local businesses, strengthens community connections, and reflects the pride of the people who live in the neighborhood. This redesign is about making Mitton Street a place where people want to walk, linger, meet, and return to, not just today, but for decades to come. This redesign is about creating a street that feels inviting, that feels active, and worth spending time on, a place that supports local life and long-term prosperity. Next slide, please. We advocate support for and the adoption of option 1 for the following reasons. Design-based traffic calming, such as curb extensions, narrower lanes, and tighter intersections, naturally slow vehicle traffic, reducing both the likelihood and severity of collisions and reinforcing Mitton Street's role as a village main street rather than a thorough street. This is much more effective than relying on traffic enforcement measures. Shorter pedestrian crossings and improved sightlines make it safer for seniors, children, and families, while slower speeds create a more comfortable shared cycling environment suitable to village-scale corridors. Together, increased walking, cycling, and use of flex spaces improved perceived safety. As more people linger on the street, leads to stronger natural surveillance, or eyes on the street, which research consistently links to lower rates of crime and antisocial behavior. Next slide, please. This design reinforces Mitton Village as a place and not just a shortcut. These enhancements signal clearly that Mitton Street is a destination, making it recognizable and memorable, encouraging word of mouth and destination visits, and supporting brands, events, and local promotions to increase both tourism and local discovery. Maintaining on-street parking, adding trees, curb extensions, and sidewalk animation respects the historical building patterns and small business character that defines Mitton Village, while flex spaces enable local expression through pop-ups, patios, seasonal seating, and small events, giving businesses and community groups visible ways to animate the street, supporting a distinct, recognizable Mitton Village identity. This sense of identity will help Mitton Village small businesses compete with big box areas and auto-oriented corridors elsewhere in the city. Next slide, please. Retaining most on-street parking, like option 1 does, ensures convenient short stay access and high parking turnover, which means more customers, while curb extensions improve visibility of storefronts by slowing traffic and improving the sight lines. Flex spaces, patios, and seating generate more economic activity than static parking alone, turning public right-of-way into productive, higher economic return space for local businesses. Encouraging pedestrian visits and increasing lingering time will directly increase business profitability as people on foot and bike stop more often, visit multiple businesses per trip, and return more frequently than drive-through customers. Safer, more attractive main streets are linked to higher commercial rents, improved property values, and more stable tax revenue without expanding infrastructure footprint. Public streetscape improvements reduce risk for private investors, property owners are more likely to renovate their storefronts, vacant units become easier to lease, and long-term tenants are more likely to stay. This creates a virtuous cycle of reinvestment that is at the core of neighborhood revitalization. Next slide, please. While the design overall is a welcome improvement, as with any redesign of extensive construction project, there inevitably will be perceived drawbacks. The impact of construction. If construction is unavoidable, business failure shouldn't be. The city has the tools to reduce harm, share risk, and ensure small businesses are still standing when the street reopens. Mitigating the impact of construction must be front of mind. Construction doesn't kill business, invisibility does. Clear and consistent wayfinding, safe and intuitive temporary pedestrian routes, short-term loading and pickup access, and regular updated construction phasing maps help customers understand that businesses are open and how to reach them. Permit fee relief, microgrants, and CIP funding can help businesses offset disruption and time facade or frontage improvements to coincide with the construction, turning a difficult period into a long-term investment. Many cities successfully develop construction-themed branding and campaigns that encourage residents to shop the disruption, building anticipation and reinforce community support throughout the project. Next slide, please. People will tolerate inconvenience when a place still feels active. Temporary flex spaces, branded hoarding wraps, and low-cost programming where construction allows can maintain energy and foot traffic. Above all, these businesses need predictability, communication, and trust. Regular, transparent updates on timelines, delays, and milestones will increase the patience, the cooperation, and the confidence throughout this project. Next slide, please. Of course, we need to address the loss of parking. And let's be honest, no business owner wants to lose customers because someone couldn't park. That fear is real and it's reasonable. The question isn't, do we like parking? It's what actually brings customers back more often and for longer. Reducing on-street parking in a business district can feel counterintuitive, but in many cities, it's proven to be pro-business, not anti-business. The truth is, busy streets sell more than convenient parking does. Main streets don't win by competing with plazas, and Mitton Village will never beat the big box stores on free parking, their convenience, and their in and out speed. People will never say, let's go to Mitton Village, the parking's great. People don't remember where they parked. They remember how they felt. Exchanging on-street parking for street trees, patios, benches, and curb extensions creates a destination, not just a corridor. This has proven to increase dwell time, encourage repeat visits, and yes, directly impact sales. Next slide, please. While on-street parking serves one customer at a time, often for long durations, reallocating that space to wider sidewalks, patios, bike parking, or safer crossing increases the number of people who can access and linger in the business district at one given time. Study after study show business owners often believe that most of their customers arrive by car, when in reality, many arrive on foot, by bike, or by transit. Many park once and visit multiple shops, and local customers value walkability over parking proximity. A mix of 2-hour parking limits, 15-minute loading zones for passengers or merchandise, and dedicated accessible parking spaces could ensure that the existing on-street parking spaces are efficiently being used for frequent short visits. 5 customers using one space is better than 1 employee using it all day long. Improved wayfinding and signage for existing off-street parking can ensure visitors easily find lots nearby or side street access, reducing the reliance on these 6 on-street spaces. Clear, consistent signage at neighborhood entry points and along Mitton Village would help shift parking behavior naturally, making arrival simple and predictable while keeping the main street focused on people, activity, and the local business. Next slide, please. This design meaningfully reduces long-term risk for both the city and local businesses. By designing for lower operating speeds, it reduces the likelihood and severity of collisions and near misses, lowering liability exposure over time. The inclusion of flex spaces allows the street to adapt as travel patterns and business needs evolve and responds to well-documented shifts in consumer behavior towards walkable, local destinations. This sewer rebuild represents a once-in-a-generation reset of Mitton Street. The design decisions approved today will shape this corridor for decades and will be extremely difficult and costly to undo. Once space is allocated back to vehicle movement, it is rarely reclaimed. Infrastructure investments on this scale are permanent, and they directly influence how future residents, customers, and business owners experience their neighborhood and support our local commerce. I want to thank staff for bringing forward such a forward-thinking, balanced design that accommodates all road users while positioning Mitton Village for long-term resilience. I strongly encourage Council to support this opportunity to ensure this investment delivers lasting value for our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for everyone for their presentations. Council, I'm going to jump you to item number 2, which is this report, looking for direction. Councillor Vanderberg, Councillor White, you're moving the recommendation option 1, so it's clearly understood. Okay. All those in favor?
No, I'd like to speak on it, please.
Please go ahead, and I'll record the vote too.
Thank you. There is a growing pattern in the city of mistaking woke progressive design for good policy, even when it comes at the direct expense of local businesses. We are designing streets and zoning rules as though business success should depend only on who can walk there, in a city where the overwhelming majority of customers still arrive by car. We already hear from business owners that a lack of parking is driving customers away in Mitton Village. I met with one last week, and yet instead of fixing that problem, we keep restricting access and pretending inconvenience is a virtue. Traffic calming also continues to be pushed despite clear public frustration. And what started as a war on cars and common sense is quickly becoming a war on citizens who drive and small businesses who need parking. A good case in point is the parquet we created. It is not a success. In reality, it has become little more than a place for drug use rather than a welcoming space. I was on site last week to see the drug paraphernalia, another perfect example of how these ideas sound good on paper but fail in practice. This is especially disconnected from reality when we now have a new gas station in the same corridor, while simultaneously designing the street as though vehicles and customers who rely on them are the problem. What about seniors and the disabled, if nothing else? This feels less like listening and more like imposing a vision driven by optics and ideology rather than how Sarnia actually functions. I will not be supporting this in any way. Thank you.
Hey, I'm going to record the vote, and I just want to say this. This is one of the best examples I've seen of grassroots growth and vision.
Yes. I want to say something
No,
quickly.
no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, you can. No, no. I'm
invited to come to the community center.
I'm sorry. Please do not disrupt this meeting. You're not helping your cause. You're not helping your cause. I'm trying to assist you. And I'm saying to you, this is a very good example. And I've been through the downtown reconstruction, which was very painful for everyone. Here's a good example. You can do something very positive based on what that community wants. Councillor Gilson, I'm going to call the question because I was hoping to move forward.
Yeah, and I don't want to hold up anybody in any way, but I have to say that having lived around the area of Mitton Village about 45 years ago, it was a place that you wanted to be. It had everything. And being a young mother, and we only had one car, I could walk anywhere in Mitton Village and get anything I needed. And it was very sad for me to see that it declined and declined and declined again, and never really got that opportunity to regain that momentum of what it was, another place besides the downtown core or an option to the Lambton Mall. And believe me, there are a lot of people who would prefer walking around the streets, experiencing the shops and the motivation that you have just being in a place like that. And that's what Mitton Village had. And this gives it an opportunity to have it again. And it's going back to the future for me. And I just see how well it's been put together and how people have that are there are embracing it. And it, to me, is the roadway to success. So I can see that this is going to be a model that will be used in other parts of our community, and certainly people coming to our town, who do come to our town, looking for something like this, are going to be ecstatic, and they're going to spread the good news.
Councillor McRoberts, I'm going to call the question, and Councillor Burrell, I'll call the question.
Thank you, through the chair. I would just like to point out, like any park bench in the city, there may be some drug paraphernalia with the experience we're having with addiction. But I have been living in that area for 6 years, and now that we have it set as a parkette, I see people buying food from restaurants and sitting there, and kids after school meeting there and hanging out and enjoying themselves. I see events happening in this place, and I just will not stand for it having a negative tone to it when it is actually an amazing place for people, and we just need to take some time to go see it.
Thank you for that. You're there, you know. Councillor Burrell.
Can I respond to that?
No, you cannot at this point. Councillor Burrell has the floor.
I'll after Councillor Burrell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I sing the same tune many times, but they only have 28 street parking spots, and they're going to take away 6. That's 20%. And they took out, when they put in the parkette, they took more parking spots to put in the parkette. I don't think it's healthy to be taking away parking spots for, especially, I go to Mitton Street regularly, at least once a week for the market, but I also go and shop 3 or 4 other stores there I go regularly to on the northern part of the Mitton Street, and I don't know. I don't think it's a good idea. It is awful hard to park there sometimes, even as is. And I think it's, it sounds wonderful to have all this stuff on the, make the sidewalks wider, and make it all prettier than that. But I don't know. It seems to me what people want mostly is some place to park that they can get in and get out. So I will not be supporting this particular motion. I would support the other ones, but not this option.
Okay, I'll call the question.
Can I say something, Mayor Bradley?
Yes, please, and then I'm going to call the question.
Sure, thank you. You know what? In all likelihood, this is going to pass. I'm no fool, but I just think it's hilarious that some of the supporters of this project were so gung ho and supported a flop house on George Street. That in all likelihood, those people are going to come down to Mitton Village and destroy what you folks are going to be building in Mitton Village. I think it's really, really rich and hypocritical. It's just a comedy of errors, just hilarious. So you know what? Do what you want to do, but it's just hilarious. Maybe you're just making up for that stupid decision you made on George Street. So, that's it.
Thank you. I'll call the question and record the vote. Those in favor of this motion: Councillor Kilner, Councillor McRoberts, Councillor Gillis, Vandenberg, White, myself. Those opposed: Councillor Bouchy, Burrell, and Dennis. So on that note, we're going to take about a 5-minute break and reconvene. It never ends. Here we go. We're going to go to item number 1, and then we've got a bunch of noses in motion. I was just saying to some of the councillors on this issue of the veto, I'm treating it just like a reconsideration. They move the question, seconder, and then we vote on it since we've discussed these issues before, and I'll record both those votes. On that note, can we move to the development charges? That's the first report to you. Councillor Burrow, you're moving it? Yeah. Seconder, no. Seconder, Councillor Gillis, okay. Discussion? Councillor We're on item number 1 in the regular agenda.
I'd like to speak.
Okay, I've got, sorry, Councillor McRoberts, you wanted to speak first, and then Councillor Dennis?
I do. I'd just like to speak again to my comments last time. We have a city full of existing homes that have infrastructure, that are paying their full taxes, and now we're about to give a break to the folks that should have the development charges added to the bill of purchasing their home, because it's never going to be enough to build all this infrastructure. It's never going to be enough to cover everything. And when buildings are being built or homes are being built, that's part of the cost of having something built and new. So again, the rest of the city's going to have to pay up to maintain not only what we have, but to pay brand new infrastructure to be put in. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis?
Thank you. For years, I've been saying that our development charges are too high, too complex, and completely out of sync with the market realities in Sarnia. I warned that the policy we adopted in early 2024 would stall growth, and that's exactly what happened. We strangled our own momentum while other communities kept on moving forward. I have been pushing for this correction from the very beginning, and it should never have taken this long. The proof is in the numbers. We only built 25 homes this year, and I believe it was even less last year. This isn't hindsight. It's what I said would happen in real time over and over again. Now that staff finally acknowledged what I've been saying, we're playing catch up. This amendment is necessary, but let's be honest. It's a repair job on a mistake that could have been avoided if council had have acted when it mattered. The bottom line is that even the proposed development charges, in my mind, are still too high. My vote would be to reduce them even more. It's time to be bold. And quite honestly, they're slated to take place in 2027. I would have them take place January 1st, 2026 if I had my way. But I'll support this change only because we can't get support for the right answer, which is much lower charges. But I want it crystal clear. We lost valuable time, jobs, and housing because our development charges. And we will lose more because they're still too high. Our only way out of this 35-year stagnant city mess is through development and growth. Thank you.
I do want the public to understand it's either taxes or development charges. It's that simple. You've summed it up, Councillor McRoberts. Let me call the question. Has that been moved and seconded? Mm-hmm. Okay. All those in favor? Yes, sir. It's the question on point number 1, the first report. Approving amendments to come into force for January 1st, 2027. A 50% reduction in the residential development charges with development area 2 until January 2028. That's the motion. Moved and seconded. Oh, certainly. All those in favor of the question. Councillor Burrell, Councillor Gillis, Councillor Vandenberg, myself, Councillor White, Councillor Dennis. Those opposed? Councillor McRoberts? Councillor Boucher, how did you vote? Okay, all right. That's all. You've got all that recorded? Okay, thank you. Number 3 is a report related to Chris Hadfield Airport. You've dealt with a number of these issues. This is now the public reporting on it. Councillor Gillis? Moving, seconder. Number 3.
I'll second it.
Councillor White, any further discussion?
I'd like to speak on it.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I've been clear on this issue. This proposal makes absolutely no sense to me from any governance, financial, or strategic perspective. We are being asked to sign a 20-year land lease with an option for another 10 years. At the exact moment, we are supposedly restructuring the entire airport and talking about a new municipal services corporation that is meant to drive economic development. Who signs away 30 years of control over a strategic airport land right before the new corporation even exists? And let's be clear about the terms: exclusive use, no rent, a multi-decade commitment. I cannot imagine any other municipal asset, waterfront land, parkland, commercial space, anything, where we would gift 20 to 30 years access with zero revenue. Yet somehow this becomes acceptable here. We didn't give Dave Brown and the marina at the last meeting the same free terms here, did we? We're told this is being done in recognition for long service. Recognition is important, but it's not a basis for giving away the future earning making decision for today. We are tying the hands of future council, future staff, and all citizens for 30 years. Let's be clear. Approving a long-term exclusive rent-free lease at the very moment we are looking at the future of this airport makes council look unserious about financial management. It makes us look like we don't understand the value of our own assets. This is not the level potential of a strategic managed or municipal asset. If you want to honor someone, then honor them, but do not disguise a 30-year land giveaway as a recognition gesture. Once again, we didn't honor Dave Brown and the marina in the same manner. We charged them rent. The most important thing to remember in this is this decision severely limits our future options. We are not just stewards of taxpayers. We are not just stewardships of taxpayers' money. I will be voting against tying our hands with up to 30 years of handcuffs, which will essentially stifle any future of the airport. Thank you.
For the public record, can you describe what exactly is happening here? This is a non-airport building that is basically a shed.
Through your worship to members of council, this is a privately owned building. The terms have come up regarding the long-term lease of the land, which is being requested by the city as part of the extension of the amending agreement terms that have been raised. That would see the extension of the operating subsidy to June 2027. So this is a term raised by Mr. Webb as part of those negotiations, and it is for the land lease underneath the privately owned building referred to as the oil shed.
Thank you. Councillor White, and I'll call the question. Councillor McRoberts.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Bradley, to staff. And just to further clarify, how much land are we talking about and what is slated to be used, or what is that land slated to be used according to the master plan in the future?
Through your worship to members of council, I'll ask the city solicitor to provide the exact square footage or measurements of the land lease terms. But in terms of what the designated area is to be contemplated for in the airport master plan, there is no contemplation for other uses. Again, this is an existing building and that was recognized as part of the master plan.
Do you want to add to that?
So through the mayor, the square footage is in the agreement, and I can just pull that up in just a moment and have that number available.
Councillor McRoberts, anyone else wants to speak before I call the question?
Thank you, through the chair. I would just like to confirm this individual has been paid for the years that he worked. He had two businesses. One looked like it maybe didn't make so much money. One did, with employees. And now that we are looking at transitioning the airport, this individual is saying, I want 20 years free rent of a spot, or I'm still not really good with this. How much rent would we get if we had something else that was there for the future of 20 years? If I had employment for 20 years and then I said, hey, I want this in lieu of giving you 20 years of me getting paid, I just still don't understand how this is a barter. I don't understand why he gets to stay. Why doesn't he just pay rent?
Have you actually seen the shed? Councillor Burrow, I'm going to call the question.
Recorded vote, please.
Oh, sure.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify. The reason this is happening is because we have asked them for a favor. And so this is part of the negotiation. So it's not all one-sided where we're just giving this fellow this property. It's part of the negotiations for them to continue to look after the property, the airport, until the time of the transition. So I think it's it's not a great big thing we're giving him. I think it's just a reasonable and a thank you as well.
Let me call the question. Those in favor? Burrell, Kilner, myself, Gillis, and White, and Bushy. Those opposed? Vanderberg and McRoberts and Dennis, so the question passed. Moving on to the progressive naming rights. This is a good deal for the city. Really upgrades the amount of money coming in. Councillor Burrell, you're moving it. Seconder, Councillor White. All those in favor? Unanimous. Moving down the list here. Can I just turn to the CEO for a minute? This is to move it forward, but there is a good chance, just with the economic situation we're facing, we may have to pull it back a bit on the... That's correct. Yeah, on a... okay. Mover and seconder? To move forward on the airport Municipal Service Commission.
I'll second it, but just for, I believe Terry, Councillor Burrell was moving it, and I'll second it just for discussion.
Now, I was going to move that we don't do it, and if I found seconder, I'd explain why.
But that would be a reconsideration, would it not? We already gave that direction.
That's my opinion, that council's already set the path forward for investment in the airport, which included the establishment of a municipal service corporation.
And what I was saying to the CEO is my understanding, just because of economic situations, we may have to start moving on this, but may have to pull it back. And hiring a new CAO and doing all that may not be the right thing next year. And so we've got a mover and second on the question.
Excuse me, Councillor Burrell was moving that we don't do this.
I can't accept that because that would be a reconsideration at this point.
Have no motion on the floor.
Is someone willing to move it?
I could, actually, I would table it because there is a public process component still embedded in this discussion that would not allow us to vote on this at this point in time. So there is some, and if I read it correctly, it says something about 15 days on Speak Up Sarnia for people to come forward and talk about this. So to me, we're premature in voting on it because it's still in the public context.
But you still have to give direction to move it forward, or not?
No, I can move to table until the end of the public consultation process.
Through your worship to members of council, this is to initiate that public process of public consultation.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So, yeah, all right. I remove my tabled motion, and I will move that we accept the recommendation so that we can move to the public process and get some more comment on this.
And that will accomplish the same, what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
Seconded by Councillor Kilner. Any further discussion? All those in favor? I guess what I was trying to say, this may all happen. At the end, you may end up saying, no, we want to go in a different direction. All right. Now, I told you the heritage issue has been withdrawn, and you were copied on that today. So I'm going to go to the notices of motion. Start with you, Councillor Burrell, about the Conservation Authority.
Yes, it's quite lengthy. It's here. Really, I'll just go to the last part. The operative thing. Let's see here. Try to find my own motion. Basically, it has to do with the Conservation Authority changes that are being initiated by the government of Ontario. And basically, we're saying leave it as it is, and that the City of Sarnia supports efforts to balance expertise, capacity, and program delivery across the province, and requests that the province work collaboratively with municipalities and local conservation authorities to determine the most effective level of strategic consolidation to achieve both provincial and local objectives.
Is there a seconder? Councillor White. All those in favor? That is agreed to unanimously. Moving down, this is the veto process we talked about. Councillor Gillis has moved a motion to override the veto I had on the police budget. Is there a seconder?
Actually, Your Worship, I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong order. I've thought that Councillor Burrell had his second motion.
Oh, he does, and you're correct.
But it's further, yes.
No, this is very confusing.
That's how it's written.
These two addendums is very difficult as chair to work with, and I'm sure it is for council.
Yes. I believe mine is number 2 as well. Yes, excuse me. The motion is that the City of Sarnia staff review the report on the Sarnia Police Station mentioned in the Sarnia Journal, December 3, 2025, and report back to Sarnia Council in January of 2026.
Is there a seconder? Councillor White?
Yes, if I can just speak to it quickly. There's a lot of information floating around in the community, and I think it would be of some value to the city as ourselves, as a council, and the city as trying to balance some of the information that's around. And basically the two things seem to be as well, build a new police station or fix up the old one. And so I believe this report that's here, and I don't know much about the report, to be honest with you, but it did seem to be supposedly put together by professionals of some kind. And so if we could have our staff kind of give sort of their opinion of that report, as well as perhaps bring in what the police service is proposing, to sort of maybe give us sort of a balance of what maybe we should be doing.
Okay, all in favor of that?
Can I, point of clarification then, if I may. Can we just be sure that we're talking about the same report? It's entitled The Forensic Audit and Strategic Review of Sarnia Police Service Facilities, Analyzing the $91 million capital proposal against the precinct model. Is that?
Well, yeah, but I believe there was, I was trying to expand it more, is that, but also there was supposedly another report prepared somewhere, and I thought it referenced it there, with regards to the building itself.
Yes, there's quite honestly, I've been trying to find it in my police files from the board. I think it was in 218 or so. So that would be, whatever we get, we'll provide to staff.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor? Sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, I would hope that when the staff go and create the report, that they will also refer to their own corporate asset management plan, and in that they developed for us and we approved in July of 2025. And in that asset management plan on page 133 of 158, it goes through the police services inventory, and it describes the police headquarters as poor, and of the life cycle activities we must do, or it's high, is planning, acquisition, OP and MTC renewal and disposal. Also in that same section, it says, again, let me just get this. It talks about the replacement cost, which is based on the proposed level of service of 2025, facility estimate from 2025, and our staff is saying that the replacement cost is going to be $118 million.
This other report.
This is in this report. This is in the corporate asset management report. And it also says the current level of services, the standards regarding regularity, capacity, safety, and sustainability of service are not, and sustainability of the service must be met by this facility, and it gives it a C rating, which is the lowest rating. Adequate quantity of vehicles to meet normal service demands and radio communications. So the rating poor means the facility needs to be replaced. And that's in the Corporate Asset Management Plan 2025, page 134 to 136.
And this motion is to bring a number of those reports together and back to you, if I understand it correctly from Councillor Burrell. All those in favor of the motion? Favor, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the majority. Thank you. On the veto, I said it to you before, I vetoed that part of the budget, the $5 million. So I will simply record the vote, and we do have a seconder with Councillor McRoberts, I believe. So those in favor of the override that I put forward as the mayor on the police capital, on the override. You're voting to take out that, put that $5 million back in the budget.
Yes,
okay.
There's 5 I see.
Now the votes here, Councillor Kilner.
I don't want to, Mayor, I don't want to vote wrong. I'm against the $5 million.
If you want to override my vote or my budget to you,
No.
then you vote for this motion. If you
Okay,
don't
sorry.
want to,
No,
you
I
vote
don't
against it. All those in favor? Councillor Gillis, Vanderberg, White, Kilner, and McRoberts. Those opposed? Burrow, Dennis, myself, and Bushy. So that passes. Moving on to the other.
No, that fails.
You're right. Sorry, thank you. That's why it gets tricky with this stuff up here now. Moving to the other override, Councillor White's moved it. Is there a seconder on the base project? Councillor Kilner, I will call the question. This is to override again, so if you're in favor of the override, you vote for this question. All those in favor? Councillor Gillis, Vanderberg, White, Kilner, and McRoberts, and Dennis. Those opposed? Councillor Burrow, myself, and Bushy, so that passes. Moving on, motion number 5 is this last motion. That's my motion to you, putting some reasonable cap on the cost of the Brights Grove Library project, and with an estimated project cost to report back to us. I can't move the motion. I need someone to move or second it.
Move it to get it on the table.
Or seconder? Councillor McRoberts. Okay. It's probably just as simple to call the question. Those in favor of this motion? Those in favor? This is on the Brights Grove Library to put some cap on the costing. Councillor Bushy, myself, Councillor Burrell. Those opposed? That's everyone else. So, thank you. Let's move on then. Let's go to the minutes. Councillor Kilner.
I move that the minutes of November 17th, 2025 regular meeting, November 17th, 2025 closed meeting, and November 25, 2025 budget deliberations meeting as printed be adopted.
All in favor? And so this effectively, Madam Clerk, means that the budget is now finalized and we're through the whole process. Good, okay. Any urgent matters? Not seeing any. Let's move to consent agenda.
I move that items A to I listed in the consent agenda be introduced.
All in favor?
I move that.
I'm seeing hands up, even though the consent agenda is supposed to be, sorry, it's supposed to be the consent agenda.
I realize that, but I did want to reiterate something that Councillor Burrell brought forward before with regard to the engineering department and the non-eligible ICI collection service and how you worked out. Councillor Burrell is leaving. I know you did. Yeah. You did, and I will respect that. So new information has come forward, as we all know, that what we agreed to at budget is now no longer in vogue. But I would ask Mr. Jackson to speak to it because he worked his magic.
Through to Mayor to Council, certainly have to pass that credit on to our staff, but yes, the contractor did review their pricing, and I understand they're getting similar requests from other municipalities, so they looked at creating a more efficient route. And so we could continue to provide the same service we are now within the allocated budget if Council would like to do that.
I believe that's, if we
That's very good news, and a Merry
don't
Christmas
take any
to
action,
all.
then
Yes. Are you thinking we need a reconsideration of motion?
now I'm being told by the clerk we need a reconsideration.
I move for reconsideration.
All right, is there a seconder? Councillor McRoberts. I don't normally do this, but I would suggest you we vote for the reconsideration and then waive the rules so we can do it all tonight and get it done with.
Exactly.
All right, all those in favor of the reconsideration. Then going to get a motion to waive the rules. Councillor White and Councillor McRoberts, all in favor of that. That's everyone. So now we just need a motion to endorse what's in the package. Councillor White and Councillor McRoberts, all in favor. That is done. Can you move now, Councillor Kilner, the consent
you're
agenda?
ready to be.
You move the consent agenda now?
I move that items A to I listed in the consent agenda as recommended or approved by this council be adopted.
All those in favor? Bylaws.
I move that bylaws 1 to 7 as printed be introduced and be taken as read for the first, second, and third time and finally passed.
All those in favor? Wishing everyone here a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year. So move the favorite motion, Councillor Kilner.
With a very happy holiday and season's greetings to all and Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, I move that Sarnia City Council adjourn to its next regular meeting to be held on January 19th, 2026.
And if I may, before the vote, I want to congratulate you, Mayor Bradley, and all of our councillors for having an excellent meeting in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it goes well. It's not easy. So I thank all of you and have a good Christmas and a new year.